Hello, everybody. This is Rift Insight Season 2, Episode 2. This is our LCS 2021 Spring Split Power Rankings. The last time you guys saw the LCS 2021 Spring Split Power Rankings was with the C9 Fancast, but I obviously always do this with the Mr. Buff Studman guy, so, we've had a long off-season for 2020. Big moves, actually. Reckless joining G2, Power of Evil joining TSM, Jensen staying on Team Liquid for $4.2 million, Perks joining Cloud9, Niski going to Fnatic, Naguri leaving Danwan to join FPX, Deft and Chovy joining Hanwha Life. This has been actually an amazing 2020 offseason. So I'm really happy about the LCS and how the rosters were actually prepped. My rankings are determined by what I see as a roster with synergy and star power. There's a reason why a certain team will be a lot lower than other teams when I talked about them on the C9 Fancast, because I can't really see this roster working out, but I think their peak will be pretty high in general. I'm not saying it can't, but I'm saying, compared to the other more stronger rosters I'm seeing, then it's definitely going to be harder to see where they land actually. But, so what have you been doing, Mr. I work every day?
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft? Oh my God. You just play World of Warcraft all day?
That's fun as heck, dude.
Oh my God. Like, I remember when we first met, you just played World of Warcraft all day, all the time.
Yeah, we were in high school, and that was fun as heck. That's pretty much what I used to do all the time.
But then you played League for fun.
I didn't play League for fun. I played it to get sweaty, because that's just the only reason I ever played League.
I don't know. I still play the game every day, actually. I play a few games every day. I make sure I at least do that. My friend will usually ask me, hey, you want to play some games? We'll play like 3-4 games. Make sure my mechanics are, still up to par with some of these new kids nowadays. You see, my game knowledge isn't lacking. The issue here is, like, I have this way of doing things. Either I can convey my point to you through typing insanely fast, or I can ping. Now, people said pings are effective, but I highly doubt that. Some people just don't pay attention to pings, actually. It's a thing that really people just need to work on. Some people just generally don't pay attention to pings. So, like, I could type my point out and be like, hey, we could do Baron right now, or you could ping Baron. It's kind of what is more effective in some cases,
I guess.
Because some people always say, well, there's one way of playing the game. That's never been the case. Even like at Worlds, for like as many years that we've been watching it, there's never been one way of playing the game that's correct. You could it's like Superman. You could ask any different person who Superman is, you're gonna get like 10 different answers. That's the same thing with League or like CS:GO or Dota. You're gonna get 10 different answers to what's the correct way of playing League or any of these other games. What's the correct way to you might not be the same correct way to me to play the game. So that's what, is really hard to see in some of these teams, because some of these teams that we're going to power rank, some of these teams have players that have not changed their playstyle in actual, like, splits. It's been a while. Like, that's why I was surprised, like, that one player that I'm going to talk about in just a moment got a team. It's like, he got a team over some other people, actually?
You're actually... I think everybody can tell who you're talking about right now.
All right, so you want to go first for me?
Don't matter to me. We started from 10.
Yeah. All right, so my 10th place team is going to be Golden Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
All right, exactly, so this roster is top. Niles, jungle, iconic, mid, Ablaze, Olive, AD carry, Stixay, and support newbie, head coach, and Arrow. So most of these players are going to most likely have it really rough when they first start the LCS 2021 Spring Split. Most of these players, this is their very first time playing an actual competitive split. So to see them potentially go from rookies to superstars is highly unlikely. I don't really see this roster doing much in this first split. I could see this roster panning out maybe in a couple of splits where the players actually learn how to play the game. But I've seen Ablaze Olive in the academy. He's not a bad player, but, when you're putting him against, like, Perks, Jensen, Power of Evil, Jizuke, Damonte, Cole Belter, like, I don't really see how this is going to work out. And now I understand why they have this roster. It's for budgetary reasons. That makes sense. And if this is going to be a roster where you have to work with it for a couple of splits to see results, that's perfectly fine by me. But the results won't come to split. And whether or not they finish at 8th or 7th, it doesn't matter, because the point of this roster is that to see if you can build upon some talent on this roster, you can eventually use these players for years to come, sell these players off, make some money. This is more or less so a farming organization right now for some of these lower tier LCS orgs. Get some rookie players. If 2 or even 1 of them pan out, sell them for big money. And that's what
you're
you have.
Selling them, dork. They're building them so they can build a roster around them. If you
sell
them,
I mean, you could sell them. You could consistently do that.
What's the point if that's literally just a less profitable...
if you consistently sell them, you could eventually save up your money and buy a better roster in a couple of
the lack of money is not the big problem. The fact is it's not worth investing money when you can't build a team that is actually competitive, which
that's
is
also true. But it goes to in a double-edged sword too.
It's not a double-edged sword.
Some teams from the past would save up money buying cheaper players to get a bigger roster later on, though.
The difference between the previous iterations of teams and these ones right now is because with the previous iterations, you weren't guaranteed a spot. If you had one good player, you're going to lose them anyways. Might as well get money when you're going to get them. When you're guaranteed to stay in the LCS right now, there's absolutely no reason to do it. Obviously, you can make some money, but it's not going directly into the pocket of anybody but the higher-ups. The higher-ups usually aren't making the decisions unless they're like, wow, we need money now. Again, a lot of these teams have a lot of financial backing. The reason they're doing this, again, if 1 to 2 players pan out at this point in time, they can build a moderately decent team around them. They pick a few... they just threw, honestly, just a massive amount of rookies in here, and then Stixay, who honestly, again, I think that's the big reason that I don't put them too high is because they have a lot of unproven talent that's honestly mixed in with a few veterans that are slightly better in terms of just the other teams that kind of did the same thing that Golden Guardians did. A lot of the players, for the most part, we're going to see a lot of these players, I think, not pan out inside of the LCS. I think Golden Guardians has probably the worst batch of rookies out of all the rest of the lower tier teams. They have the worst, probably the single worst veteran on top of the small teams. Not a lot of going for Golden Guardians.
I don't know why they chose Stixay. I don't see what's the reason behind that. It's literally just veteranship. That's all it is. I mean,
that's how you have to have at least one. That's literally what every team does. Every team, you rarely ever see a team of 5 rookies going into the LCS.
Yeah,
it just never happens. And there's a specific reason for it. Obviously, you need somebody who's at least experienced what it's like to be in the LCS to be able to lead the team in some way. Again, for the most part, they are not going to be able to build up talent. Again, if you throw 5 rookies in there and they all don't know how to play the game, they'll learn the game in a way that's improper, and then they won't be able to translate later on down the line, and you'll kind of waste them. You never want to throw them in without some sort of idea of how to play the game, or you risk kind of tainting their actual ideology when it comes to the league. I do have a lot of hope for a few of the players. Obviously, I've heard a lot of good things about Newbie and Ablaze Olive, so there is that. But at the same time, it really seems like they're first of all, I'm not sure what their identity is going to be because there's just too many question marks on the team. A lot of these players haven't played either on the same team or haven't played in a competitive roster, on a higher tier region. I'm not sure it's going to pan out. I'm not going to say it's not going to, but again, just the addition of Stixay and the fact that some of these players were in the LCS, in the academy scene, but were not as good as the counterparts that are actually in other teams makes me seem like it has to be probably the worst team inside of the LCS right now.
Also, Newbie, Latin American, he's from the same region that Jose Dioto comes from. He can't speak English. I'd imagine he can't speak English properly right now.
How would you imagine that? A lot of English is spoken in very large amounts of.
But you have a support, and support is so influential. If he can't speak them properly, it's going to be even more problems for them.
That's a question mark that I don't know. I didn't check to see if he's.
That's just something I'm throwing out there. It's
a throw out kind of thing, but again,
I just Stixay is such a phone it in AD carry now. I just don't see it. Stixay is such a phone it in AD carry. They literally, if you just went with full rookies,
no, that would be trash.
They're be trash either way, though.
If you make a bunch of rookies go into the game and try to play the game in a way that's improper, they'll learn the game in a poor way. They won't learn the game in a proper way that you can build up. Because again, doing the same thing consistently throughout the years doesn't make you better. It makes you better at the wrong way of playing the game. It just makes you improve.
What about bringing in a player like a Smithy then? Would that have made things
better? Yeah, that would obviously been better, but you would have replaced Iconic. If you get a moderately decent rookie inside of the ADC role, I would have suggested that. Honestly, even keeping Stixay and just replacing Iconic, because I feel like there's too many rookies on this team. It's good to have rookies, and honestly, if they have potential, it could pan out. But again, you're going to ruin the look of these rookies if you throw too many in at once, because they're all going to be trying to figure out how to translate their game into the stage at the same time. It should never be a team of full rookies, in my opinion. It can pan out again. Obviously, we saw that with Damwon, we saw that with Griffin, but at the same time, it's very unlikely it will.
All right. Is there any other reasons why you're putting them at 10th place? I just don't see it. Like, I mean, there's a reason why people don't actually buy a bunch of rookies because you have the risk of literally just ending in 10th place. Like, I think Steve said a while ago too. Steve said it where like if you buy a bunch of rookies, you're probably going to end up 10th place.
Oh,
now,
true.
if some orgs are okay with building that in order to get better results in the future, that's fine. But
it's really hard to make them not suck in the future if you only have 5 rookies. I promise you. It really is hard to learn the game when you have somebody teaching you. I would never suggest 5 rookies on a team. I think it's a terrible idea.
Yeah, like the fact that the last time I remember that happening was it LMQ, Damwon, Eastar were all rookies too. Remember earlier this year in the LPL, Eastar were all rookies too. But even they had issues at a certain point though. Even they had the issue of they didn't really know how to close out games either. Like they would get a bunch of leads but not close out any games at all.
If you have the confidence of a coach to be able to teach the players how to play, it's fine. But I don't think a single competent coach exists inside the LCS, so I think it's a terrible idea.
All right, so my 9th place team is going to be Immortals. So I think this roster is slightly better than Golden Guardians. Like Revenge, I've seen some of his academy games. He's not like that bad, but it's like in comparison to everybody else, I don't see it much. Xerxes is better than Xmithy, so that might add in something to the roster. I think he's going to be the best player on the roster. Insanity is
he's good.
He's actually pretty good. He's actually pretty good.
I want to say about Insanity, one of the few things again. First of all, he's really good at characters like Zoe and Azir.
Orianna, yeah.
I love control mage players. They're always something that's always going to work in every single meta. Which is why if you're going to get somebody for the long term, you're going to look for somebody who's not just going to be good for this specific meta and then be trash later on. If you're not looking to win worlds this year, control mage players are always going to be good because they never really none of them always like you'll never have no control mages in the meta. There'll always be at least one. I don't think there's been a season without that. But,
and when Immortals added in Insanity to their main roster earlier on for the LCS 2020 Summer Split, they got a lot better too, which is good. I don't think he's bad, but I think that he needs to have a little bit more aggression. Like, I don't really see a lot of, how would I say this? Like, there's a lot of risk plays that he never really takes, though, which does separate him from the top.
I do want to say that we look at it. We look at just like again. I don't like to go to stats too much, but again, for the most part, we just look at the stats for him, and he has by far and away the highest damage share for his team out of every single mid laner in the league. He's always inside, like he's always the biggest like contributor to like each one of the team fights and all that stuff. He has one of the higher kills and all that stuff. He just dies a lot, and that's why he falls down in gold and all like the other situation because of the fact that his team's consistently losing. I think he has a lot of potential. I think that his Zoe was incredibly good. I think that he's going to look good later down the line. He just needs a good team around him, which he didn't have last year. I think Insanity was probably – I'm a little more excited for him than I am for any other rookie inside of the league right now because I do think I've seen him play. I think he has potential. I want to wait before I give like my hype to Palafox and Ablaze Olive and all them because I'm not sure that it's going to pan out. Again, they haven't played against rookie. I mean, LCS Sage, more so as I think we've seen Insanity play well against them.
He can definitely hold his own in lane too, which is good. You don't see that out of a lot of rookies. They usually just get curb stomped most of the time. And Raze too. Raze he was on Legacy Esports' team. That it was oh my god, Legacy Esports. It was a team that was in the World's 2020 playing stage. Raze was the AD carry who was playing Draven against LGD through the game. I don't think he's bad either. But the problem is like he only kind of excelled at Draven to me.
The thing about it is obviously, first off, in specific picks, I think the reason that he didn't excel at anything else, let's think about it. They made it far inside of the playing stage. They looked like they might be able to do good. But the problem was, again, completely outmatched by LGD. Like, I think when LGD came around the second time, there's absolutely no way they won. Like, I think one of the big question marks I have for this team is whether or not these veteran, like, again, I think this is the perfect setup. We have veterans in each one of the non-carry positions in more of the supplementary positions trying to teach the players how to play the game with Destiny and Xerxes. I think these are the two most, unless like, again, jungle, we really do need more NA junglers. But I mean, again, if you're going to have a team full of rookies in carry positions, jungle and support are the two roles where you want the veterans to be at because they can teach the rest of the team how to play the game while not taking away somebody developing into a hard carry in the future. Like, I think jungle is still probably one of the most impactful roles in the game. I still think that's going to be something forever because, I mean, honestly, Riot seems to like the jungle position being extremely influential. But again, the reason that I think they're a better version of Golden Guardians is the fact, first of all, the rookies that they have proven to be better than the ones that are on Golden Guardians. The veterans they have are not reliant on gold income. They're more so a bunch of supplementary players that are able to play around whatever team they're on, which is also a good thing. They built a team of veterans that is honestly, if you're going to think about, we don't have a lot of money, but we need to get players, we need to get veterans on this team to teach our rookies how to play. You could honestly say this is one of the better things that you could think of. Xerxes and Destiny are not bad players, but at the same time, they're not
a bad player. Yeah, I remember.
They're not bad players. At the same time, they're not relying on mechanics. So you're not really bringing them in for now. You are bringing them for the now, so you don't suck now. But at the same time, they're going to slowly teach the rest of the team how to play, and I think that's something that is going to work out well for Insanity. And honestly, the 3 rookies on this team, or 2 rookies on the team, well, not, I guess Insanity's not really a rookie anymore, but with a lot of new players on this team, I really have a lot of high hopes for this team, and I think they can be good in the future. I just think that 100%, 1 to 2 of these players comes out looking good in the future and looking
this is definitely one of the bottom tier rosters I could see actually make a surge toward the top if it all works out, because this seems like a roster where all their playstyles kind of mesh together. But the ceiling for this team is also really low.
I think so too. I mean, I think that the veterans are going to hold them back because even if the 2 to 3 players kind of pop off, you still have Destinies and Xerxes, who again are good supplementary pieces, but they won't ever get you to that.
There's not a lot of firepower from these guys. They're not they're not going to get
to the number 1 spot. They're both about top 6 at their position at best, and it's just top 5, top 6, and it's just a question mark whether or not that will actually pan out for the team. I do have a lot of hopes. Again, Revenge, I want to see him on the stage because again, there's a lot of high hopes for him. Insanity's already I've already been happy with his playstyle. Raze, I'm not too excited for, but we'll see if it actually works out in the future.
If he can show me he can play more things than Draven at a really high level, I can buy into him. He didn't look bad at all, really.
This is 2 straight years where I'm actually 100% happy with the changes that Immortals has done in terms of just trying to develop talent. They've done 2 straight good years of this. We're going to see if in the future this actually amounts to anything. But right now, at the very least, they're making very good attempts with the low amount of popularity and income they have, trying to make a team that functions well. This is a really, really solid idea for them, and I'm actually really happy with the organization's choices here. But
so we have the same 10th and 9th teams, do we?
That was both the same.
All right, so the 8th place team is Dig.
Nope, we're not
really. Okay, so Dig's roster, I just don't like it. Like, it's just not good. Like, all you really have going for you is Dardoch and Afromu. I think Dardoch and Afromu are good enough to pull this team to 8th place, but after that, it's pretty much like what else do you have, really?
I mean, I think that
Saligo weren't good. Like, they were not good players.
Just look at it right now. We've seen Saligo actually popping off in a lot of the side tournaments we've seen recently, which is to the point where I've actually shoved him towards like a little bit higher respect than I had before. I don't think he's going to be a star, but at the same time, I don't think he's going to be a liability as he was before. They put him in a really bad spot when they put him in his first year. Yeah, that was unfair to him. He came in at a weird spot, and he wasn't really able to mesh with the team well enough, so it kind of gave everybody a bad taste with him. But I think Saligo's really proven himself a little better in terms of the side tournaments he's been in, with all the T1 tournament he was in, which he looked really good. And again, there's a lot of decent players in it, and he looked by far and away the best. He was the best player in the tournament. But we have
one of the better players in the LCS Academy too.
Yeah, we're gonna have. I think there's Fake God again, one of the best looking players outside of the academy scene. I really don't think they're an 8th place team. I don't like again. I'm just gonna touch on my 8th place team because this is kind of how the team kind of functions. I do think they're a little better than CLG right now because I don't think CLG has any firepower in comparison to Dignitas. I think that Afromu and Dardoch played so like kind of fast paced last year that teams that are just genuinely towards the bottom aren't going to be able to handle the pace that they play at. And honestly, they might be able to take a few games off the top teams purely because if the enemy team messes up, the fast-pacedness that this team plays with is going to throw them off a little bit. And
I just don't think Dig really have that.
They do have that. It's literally the only thing they guarantee to have is fast-pacedness.
But they also have that because of Johnson, too. Johnson and Afro were able to push the tempo up the game.
Dardoch by himself is a fast-paced player. He's going to make this team fast-paced. Johnson is.
But you do have two losing lanes around the map too. Like you're gonna have Fake God maybe consistently losing, Saliba maybe consistently losing.
I'll have a question mark to whether or not Fake God loses, and Saliga won't lose to the bottom tier mid laners. He's better than some of them. I think he's going to do well against Belter. I think he's going to do well against a few of the other ones. Jizuke, when he's playing like trash, is going to suck. And we really still don't even know if Palafox and Ablazov are going to be good. Like again, it's still going to be a question mark with those two. I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So again, as it stands right now, they're both kind of on equal terms. I've seen Saligo play well recently, but I've seen him also suck in the LCS scene. So I really don't know. But again, Dardoch 100%, even if he sucks in the mid game, is one of the best early game junglers inside of the LCS. Not even one of. He is the best early game jungler inside of the LCS, and that is probably the good thing. That's one of the best reasons to actually pick this player up, because he will actually kind of expedite when you're a bad team and you have a fast-paced jungler. You look good in comparison because of the fact that the enemy teams don't have a lot of time to react to what you're doing. They don't know what you're about to do, which is 100% one of the biggest reasons as to why I think this team is going to succeed. Neo is a big question mark for me.
That's just Asta.
Okay, they're gonna suck then. I actually didn't know that was Asta.
That's Asta from Optic. Yeah, that's why. I just don't think the roster has like much firepower in it besides Dardoch and Aphromoo.
No. Again, they still, even if Neo sucks, the top and mid are serviceable enough to where I think it doesn't matter. They really will probably be better than CLG, because CLG, again, what do they don't really.
All right, so my 8th place team is Dig. Your 8th place team is CLG.
Yeah, let's talk about. Obviously, CLG is your next, right?
Yeah, CLG is 7th for me.
So I think that again, Finn is giving a little bit too much. Like again, I think people are ragging him in a little too much, and I do think he has potential. But at the same time, his play last year was absolutely atrocious. He was bad all year, and it's not going to translate well into the NA scene because he's not a good player. EU's top laners kind of got hard on for themselves, talking about there's not going to be competition for him. But at the same time, like the top laners, there was only a few decent top laners in terms of just laning phase, and the rest of them kind of were more so centralized around team fighting. Honestly, and you guys lost your best. They lost their best laning top laner. So I mean, I can't really say that this is going to be a domination from him. He's going to come over.
It was really weird. If CLG wanted a good EU top laner, why not just grab Cabochard?
Because Cabochard didn't want to come, most likely. I mean, if they wanted to grab Cabochard, I would have 100%.
This roster might actually been a whole lot better actually with him.
I think so. I think that Broxy, again, is absolutely one of the worst junglers in the league right now, unless he improves.
But I think that when you look at Broxa, because CLG is my 7th place team, because I think if you look at their core of their roster, it's a whole lot better than the rookies going in. So at least they're better than Golden Guardians and Immortals by default.
You're really comparing a lot of these players to players who haven't played in quite some time and have looked better in terms of recency when it comes to like all the academy and side tournaments they've been playing. Whereas Broxa was literally the worst jungler in the league last year. Smoothie was the worst support. Wild Turtle was
Smoothie also had to lane with Stixay.
No, he was bad. There's no excusing. Honestly, he looked bad in both throughout the entire year, and it wasn't just really Stixay. He was just a bad player in general. Finn was probably the worst top laner inside of the West almost.
But Finn had a moment where he could play carries when there was the meta where you could play
last
Kled.
year. No, it was literally just last
year.
It
was earlier this year, remember? He was playing Kled.
Kled, a singular character doesn't matter. One character doesn't make you a decent player. That just makes you able to play one character. He's never looked good on carries because the only carry he could play was Kled.
Because
translates well into the scene. Right now, Finn, as it stands, looked worse than Solo last year when Solo was in the NA.
I don't know. Both of them were kind of phoning it in.
Honestly, Solo, when he was in the NA LCS, looked better than Finn did inside of the EU scene. Like, Broxa looked like complete trash. Smoothie looked like trash. Paul Belter was a mid-tier. Now we have, honestly, I would include all of CLG's roster, except maybe Paul Belter and Wild Turtle, being worse than 3 members of Dignitas, in my opinion. I think that Fake God, at the very least, is going to be better than a few players on that team. Aphromoo was better than everybody on that team. I think that Dardoch is 100% better than like Broxa. They really don't have a style to play with. They just have kind of slow-paced, conservative play style, and then hopefully translate into a team fight later on down the line. And that doesn't translate well into better teams than you because you don't have the ability to out team fight them.
I think this will get them as far as 7th because when you look at the roster, these players know how to play the game and they know what they want to achieve in the game. It's going to be a lot more harder for these newer teams to get to that point because they really haven't kind of figured out how they want to play.
Look at CLG right now. What is their identity in terms of how they play? They don't have.
You have what would you call Broxah right now? A more
Broxah
of
is
a
literally more of a trash
conservative,
man. No, he's
like
he's
it's
bad.
like
He's a
Xerxes,
bad player.
like Xerxes, right? He's more of a forgiving
He's
jungler.
Xerxes, but just less, even more
Less,
passive.
yeah. So I
trash.
personally think Broxah and Pobelter would fit better than Broxah and Jensen.
Bad teams who are conservative are the worst in the league almost every year.
But these players have so much experience that I just it's not just that.
More experience than all those players.
Well, it's not just that. It's more like this team has enough better players right now, technically in some areas.
Point out these good players.
I mean, better than the rookies coming in.
They really don't. I mean, honestly, Smoothie's worse than Aframu. I know. Honestly, I don't like to compare straight up player to player, but this is really what we have to do. I'll give Wild Turtle the benefit of the doubt. Pobelter, again, played well last year. Dardoch smashes Broxah, and Finn, I think, is worse than Fake God. So I think 3 out of 5 of the players.
That's only just for digging. No. I'm talking strictly just for I am thinking Golden Guardians too.
Every single year, the conservative, slow-paced team that is bad is worse than the fast-paced bad team. And that's just how it works, because if you're faster paced, you can cheese games off the better players.
Would you say Broxah is an upgrade over Wiggly?
No, he's trash. He's literally worse than Wiggly last year. Literally, no.
Would you say Wild Turtle's an upgrade over 6A?
Yeah, I'll give him that. Smoothie is not an upgrade.
And Finn was technically kind of an upgrade over Ruin in some areas, but
it's minimal. But at the same time, it's not about comparing their last year's season. It's comparing their play style this season. Doesn't make sense. They're slow paced. They have a bad team. They have a shot caller out of I don't know who, Baby Pobelter. So they have a moderately experienced shot caller. They have a lot of poor players, and honestly, translating this team into being good, they could be 10th place for all I know, because of the fact that they don't have potential. They just have a lot of experience, which is making me put them above the two other teams. But at the same time, CLG genuinely doesn't have anything.
I'm more or less so looking at Pobelter and Wild Turtle being the best players out of the team.
I'm just saying, if you don't have an identity, it doesn't matter how good your players are. And they don't have one. They have a slow-paced, conservative ideology, and that just doesn't translate well into anything but the early part of the season, which I think they might be better than Dignitas. But at the same time, I think that Dignitas will be able to beat the higher teams a few more times because, again, they're not going to try and force into late game with team fights. This meta is revolving right now around ending the game before 20 minutes at this point.
Well, season 11 is based around having a good jungler. Season 11 literally says you have to have a good jungler.
And honestly, CLG literally doesn't have this meta solved with this team. This team doesn't translate into this season as I see it right now.
So no, I'm not saying it does. That's why I have them at 7th place. I think they're better than the teams that have rookie players coming in. But other than that, that's just the cap.
I honestly could see them getting 10th place. I could see it happening. I just think that Wild Turtle and Pobelter are slightly good enough to where they won't lose to the bottom 2 teams. But Dignitas just
Broxah to a certain point. Is Broxah really gonna lose consistently to Xerxes and Dardoch?
The worst meta possible for him. It's even worse than last year, and he was trash in last year because it's too fast paced. He literally he's gonna look even worse unless he just comes back to form. CLG, honestly, out of every team in this league, looks like one that is archaic, does not translate. They just don't have the players to be able to play well inside of season 11.
I think when you compare it, this is kind of like a more worse version of what Splice was for EU, LCS, LEC. I think it's a gatekeeper team. I think that's all they're going to be.
They can be a gatekeeper team for the bottom 2 teams because they were 8th place in my opinion. I think Dignitas genuinely, even if they were slightly worse, which I don't think they are, they look good for this meta. They look perfect for season 11 right now in terms of just a bad team. They're fast paced. They have a good support and a good jungler, which honestly support's going to look a little worse this year anyways. But still, I think they have a moderately few decent rookies where I think they can actually shape them into something with the. Again, I think Aframu might be able to do something with Asta at the very least. I don't see CLGB. I genuinely can't see it. I don't see how they do well because of the fact of how poor their playstyle is for the season.
Well, because you also have a bunch of players on the team that conceptually know how to play the game. So it's gonna be easier for them to mesh at maybe a playstyle that could work out.
Players that knows how to play fast paced into this season. Not a single one.
I would say Wild Turtle, but he can't do that in the AD carry position.
He's a carry. He's not pushing the pace of the game. You can't push the pace of the game as an ADC. It's impossible.
It's just that if you look at the veterans that they have, I think that gets them by a little bit. But it only gets them by just a little bit, not by a whole lot.
It's genuinely because of the fact that they don't have any form of semblance in season 11 that honestly, it was a struggle for me to put them above 9th. Like I almost put them at 9th because I think that by the end of the season, they're probably going to be worse than Immortals by the end of the season.
Most likely, yeah. There's a good chance where it's possible.
I think that they're either 9th or 10th place by the end, but I think that we're kind of talking about the early first half.
Well, to be fair, when you're looking at the Dignitas perspective, you are basing out the fact that they've played Academy versus playing LCS. Like, is it really? It's hard to say though. Like,
it's not about them though. It's about the fact that Dardoch and Aframu, if you get leads for anybody, they will translate into.
But if your soul lanes are weaker, it's not going to matter either.
It won't matter. It won't matter because Broxa won't participate, where so is Dardoch. You get his soul lanes lead, and you can't really refute that because that even happened inside of the playoffs like last year. I mean, Dardoch genuinely is faster paced than Broxa. Broxa doesn't make sense in this meta. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of questionable things that they made. Like again, if I'm a team that's pretty much, I'm probably the least happy if I'm an owner of CLG right now because they have a lot of old players and no rookies in there. Like they don't have anybody.
Finn's not been playing that long though.
Who?
Finn's still kind of a rookie in some aspects.
It's fair enough. I mean, it's his 3rd season. If you want to count that.
Yes. Oh, the URL. Like, I mean, I don't really count that. I would just say he's only been playing for like 4 splits so far.
Okay, if you want
to do three. He's only playing for 3.
4 splits, so that would be 2 seasons if you want to go that. But he's been playing.
He came in the summer of 2019, and he had this year.
Playing since season 9. That's what he's been playing since.
Yeah, so it's like I just could see this roster only working out for like the first 2 weeks, maybe. 3 weeks for CLG, because when you have veterans and they know how to play the game, that does get you by the rookies just for a little bit of time.
You're talking about Dignitas not being able to play the game. They have a lot of players.
It's not about Dignitas.
No, listen to me. I think what you're talking about right now is the fact that you think that Finn somehow knows how to play the game because he's a veteran, which not only is he not that experienced inside the league, he's been playing for a while, but not too long. Not only that, but he's never succeeded in a meta similar to this. So he genuinely doesn't know how to play this game right now.
So you're saying he's basically on the level of Fake God 2 at a certain point?
I don't know if he's better. I'm saying it's a question, and if it's not a significant upgrade in terms of Finn to a Fake God, I'm not gonna give him the benefit of the doubt.
But what about the other soul laner? What was it?
Sligo to Paul Belcher. I'll give Paul Belcher the credit, but that's one lane that I've said that's one now. That's only a singular lane that I
would say AD carry too, which matters to a certain extent because of Wild Turtle
can win because Wild Turtle cannot win the lane against the support. You cannot win lane as an ADC usually.
Alphamose looked pretty good recently. I thought he looked okay with Johnson, but also, he's now lost Johnson. Now he has someone considerably worse now.
ADC doesn't matter in terms of laning phase for bot lane. They just make no impact. They're going to lose that game.
They're probably useless now.
It's not useless. It's the fact that they are dominated by support in bot lane. It's always going to be the case. ADC is the worst lane, probably the worst role in the game right now. Like all around, I don't see a world where Wild Turtle being on this team is going to matter. I think that Ostis is going to be bad too. But now at this point in time, we've kind of negated one of their 2 only good players, and they only have.
So you have Golden Guardians, IMT, CLG, and Dig.
Yes.
Okay, so Dig is your 7th place team, and Dig is my 8th, and CLG is my 7th. Okay, who's your 6th place team? I have FlyQuest.
My 6th place team is going to be FlyQuest.
All right. So FlyQuest's roster is Licorice, Jose Diodo, Palafox, Johnson, and Diamond. So I want to put this as a preference here. There was a roster that came in earlier on for the LCS 2020 season who bought Cloud9 players and kind of failed with them. I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying they didn't get the results they probably wanted out of them.
Because they replaced them halfway through. Come on.
But, if you look at Licorice, I still think Licorice is pretty good. I don't know why people are ragging on him, saying he had a down split. Well, that's true, but it's like everyone goes through that. I don't think that's mutually exclusive just for him. I think he still played fine overall. He had the one game where he just consistently just ran it down against Broken Blade at the very end when TSM destroyed C9, but I think he's still pretty good overall. Jose Diodo, I liked him in the World's 2020 playing stage. He knew how to play the game. He knew where to put his aggression at. He knew how to take objectives at certain moments. He knew where to actually gank. I liked his playstyle. I love him on the team. He kind of is an upgrade over Santorin in some ways. Licorice is an upgrade over Solo. Palafox, I've seen him and Diamond in the LCS Academy. They're not bad players either, though. The problem I have with these players is how will these guys pan out to the other players around them? I think Palafox is going to be on the same level as Demonte. And Demonte is not bad. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing overall if he's about as good as Demonte. Diamond, if he's about as good as someone like, almost as good as someone like Ignar, I think that's also pretty good. This is just from watching them in Academy. Maybe I'm giving them too much of the benefit of the doubt, but I can see this roster doing really, really well. And Johnson played exceptionally well with Afromu. I don't think he got a better support, though, so I think Johnson might struggle with his team and trying to find his identity. But I think this could be a potential dark horse roster. I wouldn't really put them at dark horse status because I think there's just better teams that could be dark horses than them. I think they actually got upgrades in a lot of their positions, actually, which is good because they might actually play better now because they don't have a top laner who's just literally dying in the first 5 seconds of the game every game. So that's going to be definitely a big benefit. But yeah, that's why I have FlyQuest at 6th place. They look pretty solid. I think their ceiling is higher than CLG's, Diggs, IMTs, and Golden Guardians. Mm-hmm. If you really look at it, I think Licorice and Jose Dioto's playstyle really complement each other. I also think that Johnson as an ADC is better than most of the guys at the bottom, like Stixxay.
Honestly, he might be one of the best ADCs in general. Not even just at the bottom.
Like he's better than Wild Turtle. He's better than Raze. He's better than Stixxay. So yeah,
I mean, you could throw him as better than some of the higher tier teams. I honestly still think he's substantially better than Tactical.
If he can pop off, then this team could do a lot better. If he plays well with Diamond, that's why. Why do you have
that? Let's think about this right now. I think that one of the few things that actually started questioning is that people actually started rating Tactical higher than Johnson when Worlds came around because they stopped seeing Johnson and towards the second half of the summer split.
And Tactical also lanes with Core JJ, the best support in the league.
Like I think that Tactical gives a lot of benefit of the doubt. I do think he's a good player, and I don't think he has the same potential as Johnson does. I think that Johnson is a substantially better all-around player. Mm-hmm. He plays carries substantially better. He plays as the person who's getting the resources a lot better. I think Tactical is more so as we look at teams like Damwon, where we look at Ghost, which Ghost obviously is perfect for that team. He's the guy that he's not carrying the game, but if it comes down to team fights, he's going to be able to carry them through that because he plays his role perfectly. I think that's the same thing with Tactical, where so as Johnson is more so the star of the team in most every team he's been on so far. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between the two. They have two different identities. They have two different roles. And again, that's kind of what we're going to have to see with this team is whether or not Johnson is going to make the next step in his career, going to be able to step up from being one of the best ADCs to being the best ADC, which is, again, a big question mark for me. I think there's Zven right now who I think is undoubtedly going to probably be one of the best, if not the best. So it's like there's a few ADCs that I'm questioning whether or not he's going to be able to pass up next year. But I think he has the potential to. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, Zven plays well. I don't think he does. But for the most part, I mean, you can't always go past Zven playing well.
There comes a situation where players get overrated because of their supports. Like Tactical, I'm not saying he's overrated, but he does get the benefit of the doubt with playing with Core JJ, while Johnson had to play with Afromu, who actually didn't play bad either, and still looks substantially pretty good on his own.
I'm just saying, I think, honestly, it's kind of crazy to me because I think that a lot of these people kind of didn't watch the games if they actually think that there's a substantial upgrade in terms of Tactical in comparison to Johnson. It kind of confuses me.
If Johnson was on Team Liquid, I might have put them over my first place team.
I think that it's just without a doubt it kind of confuses me because I kind of like, again, I've watched all the games, and again I think that Tactical is not incredibly bad. Like he's still a really good player in sort of the LCS, but whether or not he's not a star in his team, and again he plays his supplementary role perfectly. Again, I think that that's just kind of the way he functions as a player as a whole. But again, that doesn't make him better than most of the star carries on their teams. He's not a star carry. Mm-hmm. But again, that doesn't really matter that much. That doesn't really factor into whether or not FlyQuest is going to be good. And again, if we look at FlyQuest right now, I think the Jose Dodo was, again, in terms of an upgrade, I don't know if he's going to be an upgrade from Santorin. It's a question mark on that one. But I think that Licorice is by far and away one of the best top laners in the league still. He's been, for 90% of his career, I think he's been one of the best top laners in the league. So,
but now with these players away from Cloud9, we're going to have to see the effects of that, because some players look really good while they're in Cloud9. Some players look really bad when they're out of it. Like, Contracts, Zazel, looked pretty bad when they were outside of Cloud9.
I don't think Zazel will ever look good, to be fair, and I always said that.
Kumo looked kind of...
Kumo didn't have, again, players that haven't developed as players are never going to look good outside of their team. If we look at Sven Skaran, he still looked good. If we look at Look at a few other players like who else left? Smoothie didn't ever look good once he left, but he looked good before he came on Cloud9.
Yeah.
So that's a big. I mean, we have a lot of players that genuinely aren't. They have succeeded outside of Cloud9, so I don't really know if that's a fair comparison.
I would say it's half and half. Golden Blue kind of never succeeded after or before Cloud9.
On Cloud9 though, he was just decent, and he was decent outside of Cloud9. I don't really think he lowered in quality. I mean, it's hard to say that. But, I think that Evil Geniuses has a lot of potential. I mean, FlyQuest has a lot of potential. Like in terms of just their ceiling. I think they have a ceiling that I think could possibly be reached just towards a team that could compete for a world spot. It's possible. I don't think it's impossible for this team to do it. Or so is the actual questionable things about this is without actual like kind of long time veteran experience and none of these people being the shot callers on their team. What is going to happen with this team? Because again, we see a lot of good players on this team, but what does it amount to if none of these players know how to play the game properly? They could literally shoot down to like the bottom 3 because even though they have good players, they don't have a shot caller. They don't have anybody who knows how to play the game properly, and they just might fall apart. They don't have a shot caller on this team. They brought in a bunch of young players. The oldest, most experienced player is going to be Licorice on this team, from my knowledge. I don't know about Jose Dodo's entire career, but again, Licorice.
Well, the issue here is with the Cloud9 rosters, they usually have their academy team scrim with their main team. So there's a good chance Diamond was always listening to what Vulcan was doing in the game, which is good.
Well, you can't hear them when you don't hear him talking. You talk. They're not unless they're standing next to each other. For the most part, you're only talking to your own team. I think one of the big question marks is whether or not a team without actual veteran experience is going to be able to translate their potential onto the stage. Because again, Licorice has always had somebody who's been substantially more experienced than him leading the team. Yeah. Now that he's the most experienced player, what is that going to do for this team? I don't know. Like honestly, I think that there is a lot of players that look extremely good inside the academy scene, but I don't know if that really amounts to anything in my mind. Like I don't know if that really means...
I'm glad these guys finally get their shot, and I
always prefer shots on teams with more veterans. I think that honestly Palafox would look a lot better if he was on a team like Immortals. Like Immortals, like honestly. Like I'm saying.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, sure.
A team that has consistently like a really decent amount of like veterans might make him look better. But at the same time, if this team pans out, you have a really good team for like the rest of the future. There's a lot of young players that have a lot of potential. So we'll see if it actually pans out. There's not really anything we can know until we actually see them play on the stage.
All right. Who's your 5th place team?
Evil Geniuses.
Mine is TSM.
Okay, you're trash.
All right. So the more I thought about this roster, as the more I kind of pondered in my head, this is really not that good. Like in terms of key positions, I think they nail it. I think Power of Evil and Sword Art are the key nail positions that I really like. Lost is a question mark. You know, that's just kind of how it's going to be. They think he's really good. He played pretty good in the academy, but then again, we have to kind of factor in how well would that translate to the stage. Now, he has Sword Art kind of guiding him, which is fair. That's completely fair. Sword Art guided Huan Feng, and they got to the World's 2020 finals. I'll say Lost will do pretty well. Let's see that out of the way.
I think throwing TSM at 5th is actually kind of crazy to me, actually. I think Evil Geniuses is a decent team. They are decent.
I think Spica is pretty overrated right now. I mean, this is
overrated.
Wasn't this the person that never transformed on Kane in a game? This is the same person,
that was
right?
His first game ever. But I'm saying I've 100%. I've always talked about how Spica is overrated. But at the same time, you have a team of Sword Art and Power of Evil. I think automatically there's not many teams that can compete with that firepower-wise. Lost has looked incredible inside of the academy scene. And Huni, again, honestly, if we look at the playoffs, he was one of the best top laners inside of the playoffs out of all the teams. Like, he just genuinely looked like, again, he doesn't look consistently good, obviously. It's not going to translate consistently, but without him being the star on his team, as he usually, like, for the most part, usually is, I think he's going to look a lot better. I think he's going to look a lot better when the carry threat potential is going to be off of his shoulders. I think he's looked good for most of his career. He's had 1 to 2 bad seasons, but for the most part, it's not always been bad. Again, Huni is still one of the most prolific players out of
for me, Huni's a coin flip, I would say right now. I'm not saying he can't return to a certain form. I'm saying that right now, based off playoffs, he looked okay in a lot of scenarios. He looked good on Gangplank and Rumble, but it's just like when I look at Sword Art and I look at all the good Jones he played with, Karsa, SOFM,
I just
play with good junglers who know how to push the tempo of the game and consistently pressure their leads. I don't see that out of Spica though.
I do want to question, honestly, what in the world could possibly put Evil Geniuses? Like, I actually don't see it. I don't see a possibility.
I mean, I have arguments for it. It's just
I want to know. Let's just debate on the topic right now. They have a low econ top laner.
I would say Impact is better than Huni right now. Impact is better than Huni. Since Garen looked better than Spica.
Is a very small upgrade, if any. He looked terrible all year.
I would say that. I would say in terms of just for Evil Geniuses, they need a player like Impact.
They actually have too many low econ players on this team to make that work.
If you have Impact on an island, I feel like that is going to be a bigger thing. So you can.
Who's the secondary carry then on this team?
I would Jizuke, Ignar.
It's the secondary. You can't have support. It has to be a secondary carry.
So
who's the secondary carry?
I would have to kind of tie this to
No. I just want to say, first of all, they don't have a secondary carry on this team. There's not a single one. There's only one carry on this team, and the rest of them are supplementary carries. You can't have a jungle carry for the most part unless he plays like Kha'Zix or something, which we haven't seen Zven Garen do really too often. So they genuinely, first of all, if you shut down mid lane, Evil Geniuses is dumb for the rest of the year. They can't play anymore if you can close them down.
But this is my thing.
Is inconsistent, just like Huni, which you just made an argument for.
Yeah.
So like honestly, I don't see a world. You have Deftly, who's consistently been worse than Stixxay. Definitely was honestly worse than Stixxay when he was in the league, which is genuinely crazy to me.
Playing with Ole, who was phoning it in.
He was a bad player after. Like he looked good in his first year and a half, but
then
looked like
very serviceable. But the issue here is he's kind of always played with bad supports.
He's had good supports before.
He's played with Matt. He's played with Matt. He's played with Ole. At that point, Matt stunk. Ole stunk.
Matt was still a moderately middle of the pack support at that point in time. Again, that's what he's always been.
This towards TSM because I just only see the firepower out of Power of Evil and Sword Art. And the problem with TSM is I got to bring it back towards they've kind of always had TSM has always had players where they've only played one play style because they've always got a star player to play
for Evil Geniuses. Tell me,
I got to finish the TSM point to bring it back. So when I look at TSM, you have Power of Evil and Sword Art. Power of Evil teams become Power of Evil teams. Like they've had double lists before, Bjergsen. They've only had one play style, and it's never worked out that good with these players at a certain point. This play style gets you far because these are good players in general, but at a certain point, you're going to get exposed. And I'm thinking that with these weaker players, then again, you also have Lost and Spica, who I don't think are that great.
Spica is still, like, again, I've argued that he's not that great.
But you said Aaron was better than Spica at one point.
I did say that, and I still think that's the case. That doesn't make a difference, though.
And now they have Kuni, who's a coin flip. I guess you could contrast that with Jizuke, that's fine.
He's worse, is more of a coin flip than Huni is.
I would say, like, if Sword Art doesn't play through Spica, like, he's going to play through Spica over, like,
I just think that you're looking at Evil Geniuses who doesn't have a single other player who can play a carry, like, 80s. Like,
bring the roster back. Okay, I got it right now. Okay.
Like Jizuke literally is the only person who can play a carry character. So they only have one singular carry, and if you gank that lane, which honestly isn't a very consistent thing for mid lane, obviously it's hard to gank that lane.
But you look at the way Ignar impacted the game too. Like I could personally see Ignar and Svenskeren working out pretty well. He worked really well with Santorin, and you get an upgraded jungler now in Svenskeren. I think the ceiling is a bit higher.
What I'm saying is they might have a good early game, but their team fights are going to consist of one carry. And that's the big problem right here. They have Svenskeren, who's a good player all around. But and
Impact is a solid player. I'll say that.
Solid is not good enough if they don't have a
solid
secondary
better than Huni, though? I think solid's better than what Huni's going to bring you.
You're comparing players again. Like the perm, I know. I look good with everything.
Hi, Yugi.
I'm just saying, like, all around, you're looking at a team who genuinely doesn't have a secondary source of, like, actual aggression. Like, do you actually expect them to be good? Because, again, you're going to go into a team fight with 4 tanks and 180 and 1 carry.
I would personally look at it this way. Like, if Ignar can leave Deftly on because Sword Art is going to leave Lost on an island just like Ignar would leave Deftly. So we're not really counting Deftly and Ignar. Deftly and Lost.
Huang Feng pretty often. He just left during he stays with them for the first 5 to 7 minutes. And then that's around the time where he makes a transition.
If you're looking at Jizuke, like looking at Jizuke's high and Power of Evil's high, Power of Evil's better, but it's like Jizuke's not gonna just roll over and lose to him either.
But you're also thinking about we're comparing records right now. We're not comparing direct best of the best.
Yeah.
At this point in time, and Jizuke's not going to look
that good. You see a world where Ignar can match Sword Art? I could see it. They have.
You're not actually seeing why it shouldn't make sense. Is because of the fact that you're comparing players directly, which is always the worst way to compare teams. So you're not comparing how are they going to look when they get into a game.
There's no way we'll know that actually.
you can look at that's not how you actually have to compare early game. This is how you compare early seasons. If you've seen these players before, you can make an assumption how they're going to look. There's only one singular player who can play a decent carry.
I would say Power Evil's the same way too. Like because we're banking on the fact that Cooney's going to consistently do it.
No. He's not the secondary carry. The secondary carry is 100% lost, or so is. And
we
then we can
know how that will translate.
Fair enough. Like, we've seen him play we've seen him play a pretty substantial amount in the academy scene. You're saying he won't translate? Fair enough.
Just for me, I just don't really see it. Like I'm still saying TSM could potentially get third place. I think with their ceiling, they could get third place and be potentially challenging for a second place spot.
I'm looking at it right now as the fact that Evil Geniuses doesn't have a coherent team. They drafted a bunch of good players that don't make sense together. Or so is at the very least, when TSM's team works, that's a good team. When Evil Geniuses is functioning properly, you still have a lot of holes in your gameplay. It doesn't make sense. The team was improperly put together. I think they have a lot of good players not on the same team. They should not have been on this. They don't have that secondary high resource demanding player on that team. Like you can give credit to Deathly, but then take it away from Lost, which is unfair a little bit. I mean, I think that Lost has looked.
I'm not giving credit to Deathly. It's just
literally trashed Deathly inside of the academy scene.
Well, the supports I saw Deathly always play with. They looked pretty bad.
We've seen them play against each other recently, so that's a little bit of a stretch to say that it's not going to translate when competition-wise we've seen them play
two different ways. I'm looking at it like from this point of view. Sword Art and Ignar kind of play the same. Sword Art's just better. Sword Art is just a little bit better to me. And I think that they impact the game the same way. They like to go mid lane. They like to play with their junglers. I just don't think Spica will be playing good this season because I think that he only plays good at the core.
He's going to play a carry character, correct?
More or less so. And if impact is always consistently solid and stable, Hooney's aggression really won't be panning out that way.
If you're great, if you walk into a team fight with only one character who can dish out damage, you're gonna suck. And that is literally the team they're coming in with.
But that's just a glass cannon. Do glass cannons always work like that?
Wait, what are you talking about? It's SA being the shot caller, right? It's not. I mean, first of all, they have Power of Evil, and he's pretty much always the dominant voice on his team.
But that's the problem, though. Like that's the issue, though. They all these Power of Evil teams, they never work out. Even though they are good, they never work out, though.
They made it to Worlds and almost made it out of group stages by one game.
Like, just like consistently within their region. And the previous in the region they play in, they never win anything. Power of Evil teams don't win anything.
Go to Worlds consistently, and on top of the fact, if we look at the SKT season with Misfits, they almost beat SKT that year and made it to the final. Like, there's a lot of things they've succeeded in. Power of Evil teams consistently do well because a star carry mid laner is always good. Like, Power of Evil is a big voice considering his. I mean, if Sword Art takes over the shot calling, I would be more happy with it. It's more so of a Bjergsen effect, which I see with Power of Evil. But then again, he's played really well with carries.
And then again, you're also banking on TSM changing their playstyle, and they've never consistently did that. Like their playstyle stunks.
You're actually comparing the playstyle to all of these players have played with. I mean, Power of Evil's played with a dominant support his entire career. That's just how he
played. Each shot caller would be Ignar. Ignar was a big voice on FlyQuest. That's what they said.
Yeah, again, this is the way. Like
Svenskeren was dictating the early game of Evil Geniuses early on, and at a certain point, Evil Geniuses looked like a pretty good team at a certain point. I'm not saying TSM will be.
I think honestly,
that. I'm just saying that
in terms that's why.
No, it's just in terms of play styles, there's a lot of glass cannon in terms of Spica and Hooney, and I think what's the name? Spica is getting a lot of credit for something that, I mean, let's be honest here, he's not consistently this good.
I've Spica the most, and I still disagree with this take.
But he's not consistently this good, though. People acting like he's
he's played well since the early parts of the playoffs. He's been playing pretty decently, consistently good. It's not like incredibly good.
It's not a high ceiling. It's nothing Svenskeren hasn't showed us to a certain point.
He doesn't have to be better than Svenskeren either. The problem is
in season 11 he will be, because this is all about having a good jungler.
Missing the point because of the fact that Evil Geniuses again. Tell me a secondary carry on this team, and I will agree with you. So one secondary.
Ignar can carry the early game, like Sword Art would be able to carry the early game for TS. That's technically a carry.
You understand what I'm going
for. Oh, I would say make an influence on the map.
No,
obviously.
That's not a carry.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean, and you obviously know that in this specific instance, what you just said doesn't make sense. What I'm actually going for. Who is the secondary carry on this team? Because you have to have two sources. Who is that? Who is the secondary carry?
Impact has shown he can carry games.
Impact cannot carry games. We've seen that his entire last year.
international
played,
stage can carry games.
He literally played purely tanks last year and honestly sucked worse than solo inside of the NALCS last year. Like,
but we've seen him able to carry games even from being a tank player too.
No, you can't carry a game. It's genuinely impossible.
Well, yeah, that depends on the top lane specifically, but you know.
No, you genuinely, if with only one source of carry, they're able to focus you down a lot faster because they don't have too many people targeting them on the enemy team. Like, honestly, there generally doesn't, like, Evil Geniuses is a poorly put together team that somebody saw a lot of good players, know the team players are good, but don't know how they function well together. I honestly don't know who the coach for this team is, but
Peter Dunn.
It doesn't make sense.
It's hard to know, but like Coach Impact, I never like to go off that.
No, I'm saying just genuinely, like, it doesn't look like a well thought together team is what I'm saying. Like, if you look at it, if you try and put together a team in your head with just like a few players, if you have to combine TSM and in Evil Geniuses, there's a lot of you would never put together, if you just had 10 players to put together, you would never put together Evil Geniuses team because, like,
oh man, well I'm taking out Lost and I'm putting in someone like freaking
no. We're combining only TSM and Evil Geniuses players. You would never find a situation where you'd put Evil Geniuses team together because honestly, all around their team doesn't make, like, again.
For me personally, I like what they put together. The issue here is
it's completely terrible.
The issue with the Evil Geniuses roster, which is the reason why they're just a bit lower outside of the other top three, is because it's hard to say this. Like Jizuke, it's hard to really pinpoint like what his ceiling actually is and how much impact he'll have in the game if he's not ahead.
Okay. A question I do have is not only do they have one source of carry potential, but they have a carry who genuinely isn't consistently good. So now when this player is not playing, it's not better than TSM. TSM, at the very least, you can't say that Lost isn't going to be somewhat of an ADC, like a carry. And even then, we still have Huni on carries. Like, you still have a player.
Just contrasted Impact and Huni as pretty much.
They're not identical. They're nothing the same.
Like, it's hard to really count a glass cannon as a carry, though.
It's 100% how you count it, because they have to focus him or he kills them. That's why this makes sense. That's why.
How far do you have TSM? Is TSM third for you?
They're a team.
So yeah, I just think though you're making a lot of arguments for a team you have at fourth.
It's a team that is a very high tier above. And honestly, I was making an argument for third for them. As you're trying to put them at fifth, it was just crazy. I think that the difference between fourth and fifth is a very high difference. I'm
not gonna lie. If I don't think they're like,
I don't see how you can make, like, what does this team succeed at?
I don't really see this roster even being better than what they had last year in some ways.
It's not better than last year. That's not what we're arguing for, though. What we're arguing for right now is the fact that
if I had to see Tony from his playoff performance, he looked okay.
That's because you don't know what you're talking about.
He looked
Tony was at the playoffs. He looked like one of the best players in the league. He looked incredible. He was the best player.
He's a downgrade from Broken Blade. I will still say that he's a downgrade from Broken Blade.
It's not comparing last year's team, though. That's not what we're doing. We're comparing whether or not
Spica, who we saw play recently. I mean, is that really him or is he something else? Like, I don't know that though. I'm not trying to go off recency bias. That's not what I'm trying to do.
That's literally over 20 games now. It's over 20. That's
a
lot of games.
They played. Oh no, I mean just
Worlds. No, he looked good in the playoffs too. I don't understand. It wasn't just.
I think he looked good in the playoffs because a lot of the better junglers just.
No, he looked a lot of good plays, and we both talked about it.
He looked good on River Shen. That's what he looked good on.
He looked good on Set. Set was his best character.
Set and River Shen.
I'm telling you right now, we talked about it. We can go back to the videos. We talked about, wow, Spica looks like he's really upgrading. And I still don't think he's that good of a player because I think other people are overhyping him. But now I think you're really trying to take that counter culture thing and trying to take it to the drastic extent.
I'm contrasting that towards season 11, which has to have you pretty much have an aggressive pace, consistently good jungler. And I don't.
At the very least, that's the style he attempts to play. You can't disagree with that. He does try to play more hyper aggressive. He's just not good at it. But he's still a moderately serviceable player. We have to look at Evil Geniuses.
Right, so
they have one singular character.
I had TSM at fifth. You had EG at fifth.
I just want to make like Jizuke is the only singular carry on this team. Can you agree with that? Do they have another carry on Evil Geniuses?
I'm still gonna bat. Like, Impact is not a good carry, but he can play them.
He has not played them for over a year now. and he was not even good on them in the previous season.
You could also make arguments for supportive carries. That's what Sword Art would be doing. Or supportive.
They can carry the early game. That's not a carry that I'm talking about. That's not the identity.
Let's take it this way. So with FlyQuest, if they took out Ignar, would they be as good as they were? It's like no. You're making you're really not putting together what I'm saying right now. You're trying to say they could carry the game more so as I'm saying a carry character. You cannot have a singular carry champion inside of a team fight or you lose. And that's just, it's very hard to do that. Unless you're like playing Kog'Maw comp, and even then they usually have a secondary source of damage. Evil Geniuses doesn't have that. They don't have that secondary player who can play a carry character. You're saying players who can carry the early game. Is Svenskeren can play Kha'Zix or something similar along those lines. Svenskeren carry the early game too.
It's not about early game. You're still misunderstanding. It's about having a carry champion on your team. You have to have a carry champion that can deal DPS.
Well, we won't know that. Who they're gonna we won't know that though. Like we won't know.
We've seen their playstyles.
For all we know, TSM could only just draft one carry champion for Power of Evil and have him carry team fights.
But that's a very weird thing because that wouldn't make sense for their team. Where so is Evil Geniuses, that would make perfect sense for theirs. Like,
and if we're looking at both the rosters, these rosters probably might play the same. Because in terms of Ignar and Svenskeren having an impact to help Jizuke, Sword Art and Spica having an impact to help Power of Evil. Like, you can kind of tell what TSM playstyle will be based off the past Power of Evil teams, though.
Okay, just to make a direct comparison. If you have a team of all Malaphites and what's it called?
All Brahms.
Into like a team of like Lulu, Kog'Maw, like all these things.
Was that all for one?
Let's not even look at the bot lane. We have a team of just like all like Tarix or something like along those lines on one team. Or so as you have a team that has like a Rumble in the top lane, a jungle like tank, just whatever tank you want to put in there, like Sejuani or something. And then we have like a carry support, a mid laner like Zoe or something. And then you have a bot lane who's decent. Who's going to win the game? Is it going to be the all supportive tanks and then one carry? Or is it going to be the team that has two carries and other ways to play around the game because you're not forced into one specific play style? It's not going to be Evil Geniuses because they don't have that secondary source of damage. They don't have it. Like it's not possible for them to do it because they drafted a bunch of players who are supports. They drafted only supports. Definitely has looked bad. If Definitely turns online, I will take back anything I say. I think this team is better.
Well, I also could say Huni's look bad.
Yeah,
but outside of the playoffs, Huni's look bad though.
Let's think about this right now. I think that Huni is not the one that I'm like. What's it called? I'm
just
not
build 18 mouth.
I'm not considering Huni as an integral part. I'm saying he's going to be able to play something that people have to focus him with. Where so as Evil Geniuses to lose, they only have to have. Not only does Jizuki have to not be coin flip and play well on the day, he has to be like not killed. If they focus him in the team fight,
same thing you could argue for Power of Evil. If Power of Evil doesn't do well, then they could also fall apart. Based on past Power of Evil teams,
you're really not putting together this team, and you're going by past precedents. Is why I'm trying to.
No. I'm trying to put together how it would consistently work out for TSM.
Even if Huni is playing
not even just him, not even just him.
We're just making this point right. If Huni is just playing a carry, can you leave him alive? Can you not focus down Huni? If you don't look at Huni and he kills your team, are you dead? Even if you killed Power of Evil, I think without a doubt, there's a secondary source that you can't ignore. Where so is they're literally once you kill Jizuke, their team's done. They don't have anybody else who could DPS. They have Definitely who's looked absolutely abysmal recently. And honestly, like I really don't know where else to make that. What's it called? And honestly, again, their early game, I think maybe TSM has the slightly worse early game because, again, I think that Svenskeren is going to be the faster pace thing. But at the same time, I think that
I'm not dictating most things on playstyle. I just see that Sword Art and Ignar. Well, I think Ignar and Sword Art have very similar playstyles.
You're directly comparing characters with like players instead of full teams playstyles, which is the real reason why I think that you're not actually like 100% like understanding what I'm trying to go for. Evil Geniuses.
I understand what you're trying to go for. It's just.
Like tell me if you can say in a team who's going to be focused.
How would I feel like this? Even on their academy team right now, Hanser's on the academy team, right? Would you replace Huni with Hanser?
Actually, yes. Maybe.
Yeah, because he's a more consistent, thriving carry, right? So like, in most games now, if you have a person who is just always consistently coin flipping, that's not gonna make you better.
That's really what Evil Genius has though in Jizuke, and that's their only carry. So look at this. You're comparing Huni, who's not the main source of damage. He's just going to be that secondary.
And what if Power of Evil gets shut down? TSM aren't going to look that good either.
They have two other sources. If they shut down Power of Evil, which is fair enough, it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen to Jizuke when he's playing well. It's not going to happen to Power of Evil when he's playing well.
It all depends on Ignar support.
Did that happen to Bjergsen last year?
For who?
Get shut down. Did that happen to Bjergsen in terms of LCS? Did that happen to Bjergsen? It never happened. It never happened. They never got shut down. Didn't happen to Power of Evil. You can't say if he's going to get shut down. I'm saying when you get into a team fight, there's only one person. Once they kill Power of Evil, there's no one else. I mean, not Power of Evil. Once they kill Jizuke, they don't have to kill anybody else. Like they literally could stand.
You can argue that from TSM too.
No, you can't, because they will have a Rumble on the team, and that's all they have to do is literally sit there and they have damage.
This is not counting the fact that someone like I don't know.
It doesn't matter if he plays bad or not. They have damage. That's what I'm going for. You have a.
So you're saying that they wouldn't draft on Evil Geniuses. They wouldn't draft a game plan or an Aatrox. Who's in top lane?
Would you just give them 3 top laners?
No. Like you're saying that if you're giving just Huni Rumble, I could just also draft a top laner with a lot of damage too. You should also play around.
I don't see that. I mean, I honestly don't see a world where Impact is good on carries. He's bad at carries. He's not good at them. He hasn't been good on them for a year, like a season and a half now.
Who do you have for your
You want to just skip ahead? You just give up on that?
No. I see. Okay, so you have 100 Thieves TL and C9 at the very top, don't you?
That is the very top for me.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was the same. But no, like it's just in terms of how I see the team. I think it's not that I don't see it working out. I'm not saying that.
It's not about working out. It's that you're directly comparing players and saying, yeah, this player's better. Yeah, this player's better. Or so you're not putting together the big picture of the team and saying, wow.
There's no way I'll know that until I see them play.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about you have to have, like, every successful team has a secondary source of carries.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a secondary player that can play a carry. Evil Geniuses has a singular dimensional playstyle where so is even if TSM doesn't have a great consistent
This has always
team,
had that. Every roster they've ever had has always had that.
Yeah, that's why they haven't succeeded. I mean,
and they're going to succeed with their other Power of Evil player.
They did. You're saying that Power of Evil's always had a one-dimensional team? That's incorrect.
To a certain extent, yeah. It's always Power of Evil teams usually always have a certain play style.
The reason that they were able to beat SKT inside of the 2018 World Championship is the fact that they were able to completely out dumpster them inside of the Champion Select, and that was literally the most versatile. That's the reason. They were
TSM's drafting phase. We've seen that stink.
It's not literally TSM doesn't even have the same roster anymore or the same coaching staff really. Like it's not going to be the same. You can't make that comparison.
I mean, I can't argue coaching staff, but it's like I'm not really going on past precedents. I'm just not seeing it. It's not that this is a bad roster. I think their ceiling could be at least like third place. Actually,
it doesn't. Evil Geniuses as a whole doesn't function as a team because they are they're improperly put together. Like that's all I'm trying to say. I mean, if you want to put them there, that's fine. It just does it just confuses me because I don't see a world where they can function well. They might be able to play well at the beginning. Who knows? Maybe Impact comes online and can play.
Yeah, people who are watching us later on, this is all predictions. I could be very wrong. I'm
not going to say anything. Impact could be able to play carries. Definitely could be a good player. Any of these things happen. Zven could play full crit Rek'Sai and be able to carry their.
You're throwing shit at self-made. Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Maybe Spica could play as good as Canyon in the LCK. You never know. You never really know about that.
These are all question marks that I actually can't have answered until I see it, but I have to go by what I can see right now. I don't see a world.
I see the teams playing fairly similar, actually.
I don't see a world where they play similar. I just see a world where I think that Evil Geniuses won't lose to the bad
I would say this. They have a single carry in their mid lane where you can see their junglers and support having the influence to get those two ahead.
Which two?
Since Garen and Ignar trying to get Jizuke ahead, Power and Spica and Sword are trying to get Power People ahead.
Yeah, but they have again. It's not because of the playstyles; it's because of how they're going to fight team fights.
I couldn't possibly know how they're going to do that without seeing.
You don't have to see the team together. You see the players themselves play. You look at their champion pool, and you can see what they've been able to play in the past.
We got to get that freaking.
They probably. I don't think Impact can translate and play Zed now, and that's the kind of stuff you can say. You can make that. You can say he's not going to play Zed or Riven. That's the kind of
Impact's playing Zed. You might as well phone it in.
Yeah.
We gotta get my Look at the gaming chair fixed. Oh my god, it's just sitting there. It's on a big giant box.
It's not fixed. You want me to? Okay. All right. I don't have any tools, so I'll come back. At some point.
That was pretty good, actually. No, I mean, hey, if I'm wrong, I'll accept it. But there's always the Summer Split 2020 Power Rankings too. TSM, if you surprise me, there you go.
No Summer Split. Hello.
Yeah, that's a Summer Split.
You're considering it a Summer Split, but it's a singular season now.
It's a singular season in terms of record.
Well, the record doesn't matter. It's more so like honestly, even if the team is 0-50 and then they get like 5 fakers on their roster, you can't rank them number 1 because they can't make it to the number 1 place anymore.
No, it was just like for summer, your record from spring translates. So, you have a full season for your record. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah,
like, record is the only. Like I'm very happy with the changes.
Oh my god, if CLG go 1-17, it's gonna translate over. Oh my god, that'd be horrible. All right, so we have 100 Thieves at 3rd place, don't we?
Yeah. I have 100 Thieves there. I think 100 Thieves is probably the most exciting team because I think this is the first time.
Yeah.
Like just in terms of I know CLG and TSM and Cloud9. Team Liquid and Cloud9 are gonna look good. Or so is like 100 Thieves is a lot of like, man, we're gonna finally get to see this player in a position that's favorable for him. Like we're gonna see somebody on a team like that. We're gonna see the bot lane who's one of the best on a good team. Go around. I think this team might be able to make contentions to be able to be top 2. I think I could see it happening because they have
the issue here I have with that. The same issue I brought up with Spica. Recency bias does kind of cloud people's per se judgment on who a player actually is, right?
Who are you talking about?
So let's say like this. You know how like there's always teams that peak at a certain moment. There's always teams that do really well at specific moments, but that's not really them overall.
What player are you talking about?
It's just how this kind of things. I've seen this thing work time and time again.
Yeah, but what player specifically are you talking about?
I have to go in my deep files in my brain to remember this. So it's kind of like we'll just say at PX, right? They played really well in season 9 and season 10 they stunk, right?
Okay.
So this is all I'm saying. Did this team only peak for that moment?
What team? 100 Thieves is a new team.
So did this Golden Guardians roster only peak
for
that
trying
moment?
To say is FBI and Hui not as good as we're expecting?
At a certain point, Hui was considered a bad support.
He was never considered a bad support. He was considered a bad mid laner. He's been decent at support for a while.
FBI was considered pretty underwhelming at a certain point. I'm just pointing things out.
Where has he been bad? Both of these players, when they were at their positions,
I'm just saying, like the four core roster of players, I need to see them consistently play at this level all the time.
Me and FBI played good the entire season.
I just don't want that
year to put that together. That's not recency anymore. That's a year.
Like, that was a year because remember FBI had to play with Keith for a bit there too.
Yeah, remember? He still was actually stomping the first blood and all that stuff inside of the first season. And when they swapped it around, they never sucked. This was the best. Like
I think they have the best jungler in the league, which is going to be a big bonus. I think they have one of the best top laners. I think Closer looked the best all throughout this past year.
I think that he wasn't the best at any specific thing, but he was the best all around, and I'll give him that. He wasn't.
Sunday was top 2 all year. That's still pretty good.
I think Demonte again is.
Demonte actually, when I thought about it, Demonte is going to be the best mid laner they've ever had for 100 Thieves. They've only had Sligo, Ryu, and Huhi. So he's going to be their best mid laner. And you have Epi and Huhi, really solid bot lane, really aggressive bot lane that I think can do some good things. Now, the drafting phase was weird. When I went and rewatched their drafting phase, they were like first picking Morgana and some shit like that. I hope they don't do that shit again. That should look bad.
I think they're going to be fine, honestly. I think the drafting isn't going to be a big deal, first of all, because they have an actual versatile team now. Another thing they have is a lot more threats than just Sunday, which is...
What does team's playstyle be? That's my question. It's kind of what their playstyle would be.
It's really... I think they have the ability to play pretty much a very large amount of like range. I'm not saying much being better than those three. Which one is... I'm trying to put together...
I'm referring to his first comment.
TSM, no. He said, their first
playstyle issues, but has better players, and EG is all over the place.
He's saying it's not very impressive being better than Saligo, who...
Oh, yeah, he's talking about Ryu and... yeah, so, like, I personally think 100 Thieves has a really good mid laner for their first time ever, which is going to be a big boost for them. I think that Closer was the best jungler for me all 2020 for LCS.
I think one big thing I do want to say, first of all, is I think that one question mark I'm going to have on this team, first of all, is whether or not I think that DeMonte is going to be able to fill in the proper gaps because we've never seen him surrounded by a team of carries, where so as usually he's been the one getting the most resources. What is DeMonte going to look like? What is DeMonte going to look like when he is the secondary carry or just like the backup? Because he's not going to be the one getting funneled resources. It's just not going to happen.
I don't think you need that though. I know. It's just fine without that.
Fair enough.
Finally have a mid laner who's not just going to auto lose in the first 5 minutes.
I just want to say it's fair enough to say that, but we haven't seen it in action, so it's really something we have to not just make an assumption about. I'm not going to assume that he's going to be good because I've never seen him as a non-carry, but at the same time, again with Someday FBI, we've seen Someday's versatility. I do think that's going to make up. He can play the supportive role instead. I think he's good at high.
He plays pretty much anything, honestly.
Yeah, I think that closer really has a really good idea of how to play the jungle, and I think with the influence that just how fast paced this meta is next season, I think he's going to be a good addition to this team. But again, I think that we're going to see a lot of changes next year. I think that the state at which the game is in right now is a very poor one. I think that there's too much power being put inside of the items. I forgot what the epic items are. I can't even remember. Mythic items. I think the mythic items themselves just genuinely have too much power right now. If we want to see a world where, like, honestly, predicting the entire year is going to be hard because I genuinely don't think the season is going to stay the same in terms of meta.
For me personally, what the team is kind of just all I listed off was that, like, I've just seen it so many times where a team does really good for a meta or they peak at the right moments and they're not good later on because their playstyles don't translate very well. That's all it is.
Hasn't like, changed in the slightest. I do think they've taken a little power away from ADC, which is a big thing. So we might see a downgrade in him, and support also really gotten.
And we saw this roster have some issues in the mid game when translating to end some games too. So
that's what happens when you don't have a good shot caller. That's just without a doubt is always going to happen, and that's just no one in NA has. No one in NA has ever had a good game.
Basically, with this roster, you just have the same Golden Guardians team, except you have an upgrade in Someday. That's pretty much all it is, which makes them a much better team, though. A substantially better.
I mean, just think about Golden Guardians. The weakness of the team was the top lane, except for like he wasn't bad. He just was.
Yeah, the ceiling was not toward Licorice or Haunter. No, Licorice or Someday. But yeah, those are my only complaints with the team. I just like recency bias caused a lot of people's judgments, and I just want to go in with a level head on the team.
With recency bias, but it was an entire year for the bot lane at the very least, and the jungle. So I think it's very hard to say that they're not going to be good. Mid lane, we've seen him for 3 years now, so I don't think it's again. We already know what we're getting with him. So it's not about how the players are going to play anymore. I don't think that's a question. It's about how they're going to play with another form of high income player on the team. That's what this team has now. And
also, you could have the thing of too many carries on a team. We've seen that before happen with teams like this.
I think DeMonte's good. I mean, yeah, this is the reality of it. This team is not going to translate in the international stage. I think the only two teams that can are going to be the top two teams.
Never know. You never know. I think this is not a bad roster. If we sent this team to Worlds, I would be fine with this team, actually.
I think his ceiling is higher than what he's shown. I agree with that. But at the same time, this is not the team that he's going to be able to show that on because there's an additional carry on this team, which means there's going to be less resources to go around the team, which means that I don't know, again, if we're going to see him reach that potential yet, unless maybe someday is always that low econ top laner, which would make me very frustrated.
It might happen. That's pretty much it for 100 Thieves. I like the roster. I like what Nadeshot did this past 2020 offseason. That's my only problem with them. You know, I really hope this is them consistently. We saw that at a closer FBI. But I'm really just concerned with him. Like, can he stand up? Like, is he really going to stand up to players like Ignar, Core JJ, Vulcan, players like that consistently?
He was better than a lot of those players you just named last year.
On specific picks, though.
No, it was
not consistently.
He was literally just one of the best supports in general last year. Like, that's just. I don't know why you keep making this recency bias when, again, he was good for a large majority of the year.
It's not like that, though. It's like certain players can look good on specific champions, but all around.
Let's look at. I'm going to actually tell you what his champion pool was last year.
Consisted of Morgana,
I'll tell you
Thresh, Vulcan. Not Vulcan. I was saying Rakan. I said Vulcan is Rakan. Holy crap.
I'll tell you exactly. Let's look at season 10. Let's look. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different picks inside of just purely that season. I think if we look at it right now, he's able to play a lot of different champions. Again, he relies mostly, if we look at a Braum, Nautilus, and Thresh for his best picks, he can play Tahm Kench and just the other supportive. That translates him into multiple different play styles. I mean, I think all around, like, he has a very versatile champion pool, and we've seen him succeed on a lot of them. It's just whether or not the team falls apart around him, because he really, like, his enchanter supports are substantially worse. It's just a fact. He's more so an engage heavy support. But I think his ceilings with Hootie. Well, the big thing with Hootie back then is the fact that you're talking about on Clutch Gaming. There was not they had, when they started succeeding, they had Cody-san, who was low econ. There's only 2 high econ players on that team, or so is this team. Even the jungler himself is high econ, which that puts it up to 4 players, or comparison of 4 to 2. Even though he had Hoonie on the team, it wasn't the amount, like the same amount. But I think with closer mid jungle synergy, also actually mechanically better than most of the league. I agree with that. I think that's one of the best things about Hootie is the fact that he's mechanically better than a lot of the other players. I think that probably comes with translating from mid to support, though. No, it's Damonte Hoonie, but you're talking about Hoonie, but there was only 2. Or so as I'm saying that closer is. I mean, on this team, it's a closer and.
I just think that what really separates the roster apart is having a top 2 jungler, a top 2 top laner, a top 3 AD carry, potentially top 4, top 3 support, and Damonte's what? Middle of the pack, top 4 mid laner.
But yeah, again,
they have good players overall.
I mean, they definitely have a good team all around. But again, the difference between this team and Clutch Gaming is the fact that Clutch Gaming had 2 people or so. There's 4 high econ. Like, I see what you're saying with it, also Hoonie was. But I'm saying it was only Hoonie and Damonte on that team, where so is on this team it's Hoonie. I mean, it's Damonte, Someday, closer, and what's it called? Top 2 bot lane. It's fair enough to say. I mean, I think that's a very questionable thing to say, because we can't put them in there 100%, because again, Zven and Vulcan are better than them, and I think that it's arguable to say Tactical and Core JJ also are. But so putting them in top 3 might be the best bet. Like, I think without a doubt they're top 3, but top 2 is a questionable thing to say. Like,
all right. Is there anything else I'm missing? It's just the other problem I would say is maybe too many cooks in the kitchen, but we'll never.
I agree with that. I mean, I think it's going to be one of the questions for this team is maybe too many people are going to try and play a carry and not have the resources.
But Damonte has been shown, even if he gets just a control mage, he's doing fine on his own.
Yeah, but he's always still has that income to play with it.
He did well with just resources he's generating on his own, though. So he won't need to be given anything if he can generate them on his own, though.
You can't generate resources if there's none to generate. You don't it's not like cooking. You can't just make
you never know. Hey, you gotta buy something too. Hey.
If they have 3 people, there's gonna be the top laner getting the far one, which is he's gonna be able to do that with TP if he's a carry top laner. You're gonna have bot lane soaking the mid lane, and then you're gonna have to shove mid lane to the bot lane whenever it comes in, if he's going to be that 3rd person. So you can only get resources when you're shoving out two waves at a time until it's pushing to them. But play more supportive and carrier on top. I think that's going to be something we're going to have to see whether or not he can do, because we don't know if he can. But who's the bot lane you're talking about, Yuki? Are you talking about like Diamond and...
They might be top 4, because I heard another bot was crazy in scrims. I never really take scrim results, man. I've learned over years not to do that. I made some bad predictions based off those scrim results. Holy crap. All right, so the top 2 teams obviously go between Team Liquid and Cloud9. I mean, these teams are going to be interchangeable. Literally, 100 Thieves could be first place for all I know. But I'm not just putting Cloud9 at number 1 because obviously they're one of my favorite teams outside of G2. I have Team Liquid at 2nd place for a specific reason, several reasons actually. And this is a question I've been repeating in my head, and I've also come up with different arguments for Team Liquid also. So this roster I think is really good, better than pretty much every other roster below 100 Thieves after that point. Santorin, I don't know if he can consistently be something that TL is needed. The problem here is you have to look at it from this point of view. Is Santorin going to be an upgrade in their aggression? Because when I actually recently watched some TL games, just literally from Worlds, not just with Broxa, they've had this problem for years. They are not faster paced. Santorin technically not really is a faster paced jungler. He is just not as shitty as Broxa is.
I want
to is that really an upgrade though? He's not shittier than Broxa. Come on, Broxa stunk. Broxa was absolutely trash.
So one thing I do want to say, which is actually why they are faster paced, is first of all, with the change in top laner is going to be the big difference. It's not even about support. I mean, jungle right now. Let's talk about that right now. With the ability to put a carry inside of the top laner, it transitions their ability to play from one kind of team fight centric play style to be able to play a play style that is centric around 1-3-1s also, which is a good thing because 1-3-1s come online a little bit faster. They come online in the early mid to like regular mid game. That's when they start coming online, when you start shoving them inside of the bot side jungle so you can start contesting Barons. It's because you have to have the enemy jungler, top laner go respond to him. He's going to win that duel because I don't think anybody in the league can play against him. So we're gonna see Team Liquid, who is essentially like kind of pushing the pace faster because their team actually falls off to a certain extent towards the late half of the game, and they're gonna have what's his name? They're gonna have Santorin, who's a lot more consistent about contesting dragons and barons and stuff like that, being able to actually start doing that once they have to send too many people down there. I think they're going to force a lot of team fights that way and all that stuff. I think that's the reason that I think this comp actually works is purely because of the fact of Alphari. I think Alphari is a gigantic upgrade. I think that in terms of just speed, they're probably going to transition into a substantially faster paced team. People different for him. He only plays carries. Like Alphari only plays carries, where Impact only plays tanks. Like it's just completely polar opposites. Like
my also issue here is I think that Zven, because the number one team is gonna be Cloud9. I think Zven is better than Tactical. I mean, you can clearly see that. Like even when Cloud9 were failing, Zven was still the only player you could play through, and he was still doing well individually on his own. Just kind of didn't have a team at that certain point. Also, I think that Blabber is better at playing an aggressive playstyle earlier on than Santorin to have a more efficient early game impact, though.
I think the big question is whether or not we think that I think he can, but whether or not what's his name? Perks can actually rein in Blabber because Blabber is literally just mindless aggression and doesn't actually think about what he's doing half the time.
And he played with that. Perks has played with that before with Trick when Trick was just mindlessly doing things.
No, Trick was like genuinely playing on his own. Trick was
throwing some crazy shit back in the day.
He was the best jungler in the league at one point. That's why he'd be able to do that. But I don't think
I just see the upside in Perks. I see the upside in Perks and Blabber more than I see the upside in Jensen and Santorin. Santorin might be better than Blabber, but Jensen is not better than Perks, though.
The big question mark is really comes down to the fact of how good is Perks still, and that's going to be the big question.
I don't know. I think it comes down to the biggest problem with Team Liquid. Not even might be Alphari Santorin. If Core JJ can actually play at the high level he's playing at, because if Core JJ starts slipping, I see this team slipping. Actually, I think he's the main reason why this team's actually been doing well.
What idea do you have of them? Why do you see him slipping?
No. I'm just saying, like, if Core JJ and Tactical don't start doing well, I think the impact of Team Liquid would also start, doing badly.
Yeah.
I think Core JJ has, like you saw at Worlds 2020, Core JJ had to literally leave his lane consistently to get the team to do anything. Like if he's put in a situation where he's consistently behind, he's not going to have any impact though.
I mean, that's a hypothetical that you're not even giving to the point. Like you're not even pushing that in.
I'm not saying that will always happen. It's just like
is ever going like
I think that Core JJ is such a big integral part of Team Liquid that Cloud9 have other players you can obviously play through at a certain point where it's not going to be as
Team Liquid has Alphari.
He's not a shot caller. He's pretty much just a carry player.
From behind, you realize that, right? You don't have to be in front to be able to shot call. Like, you don't have to have the gold league to be a shot caller. Those are completely non-related things right there. I think the reason that I actually put Team Liquid number one. I'm just going to go for that because I think that, again, one of the big question marks is not whether, obviously, Cloud9, I think all around it has the higher potential and all that stuff, and I do think that they are going to play at a higher base also, which I think all around is the big thing. But I think that Alphari is the big difference between these two teams, and I don't think Cloud9 really has an answer to him. I think that I don't think Fudge is anywhere near decent enough to be able to deal with Alphari, and I think he's going to get dumpstered.
Like the only arguments I could go off of Fudge is these are the same arguments people said about Licorice. I think over time, Cloud9 has pretty much proven they know who they're promoting. Is that a fair argument to say?
No. I mean, it's not because
the exact same thing about Licorice. These are the exact same things.
I can point out you're naming one player, but I could say I think first of all we saw Fudge not look nearly as dominant as Licorice did inside of the academy scene. We have another player, but he was the best top laner inside of the academy scene stats wise.
I never really take academy a lot of it into a factor.
You can't say he's good when he didn't play nearly as good.
That wasn't going to be my question mark for Cloud9 actually.
What is your question mark then?
Blabber. I think if Cloud9 had Sven Skaren, they would have a much more higher ceiling, actually.
Fair enough, but I think they're going to play around they're going to play around mid to jungle is fair enough to say, but whether or not Blabber actually translates well enough to be able to replace Licorice's shoes is the big thing. Because if he does even 75% of that, I think it's fine. But I think first of all, right now, even Licorice right now is not going to be able to lane against Alfari. And at that point in time, we have a person who's going to lose inside a lane against Alfari.
I think I think these players will do fine into him.
I don't think so.
Alfari he's just a much better player overall, which is going to give him the edge.
Extremely lane dominance. If we look at the first play, look at CS differential at 10 minutes, he leads in massive amounts in every single category inside of EU. Who is substantially
the only stat I had a problem with people pointing out was that he did well on a 10th-place team. That's well, I mean, they had no one else to play around.
CS differential means
no, those are fine. Those are fine. It was just like when people said like Upset and Alfari did well on the Strauss. Well, those are the only good players. So yeah, they're gonna do well. It's just
no.
comparison.
That's not a fair way. CS differential cannot be. It's not factored into whether or not your team is good.
It's just laning really good, is what you're saying.
He's lanes insanely well.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you can't really argue about, and even it shows inside of his play. He's by far and away going to be the best laner in any.
I mean, like this is you could throw this out there. Like when Licorice came in and battled Someday, most people said Licorice couldn't do that, and he did just fine. Like Someday is probably better than Alfari at a certain point.
In laning,
I would say Someday and Licorice will do fine into Alfari. I think it'll be. I think there will be top laners. I think because we're giving a lot of benefit of doubt to Alfari without really having him seen him play.
We've seen him play in it for his entire career. He's always been like this. What I'm saying right now is when Someday was in the league, he was not lane dominant. He was good at laning and being able to. His big focus was being able to play anything and translate it well into team fights. Or so is that's not what we were.
That's translated just very well for Someday too. You could say the exact same things.
Alfari came in being hyper aggressive in lane dominance, and that's what we're expecting out of him. That's what we've seen out of him his entire career. It's not the same as what we expected out of Someday. It's the complete different polar.
But comparing off of what we've just seen in their recent gameplay, they played very similar. They really do play very similar.
Played nothing.
Well, the issue here with Someday can play without a jungler. Alfari kind of needs a jungler to play well.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Blabber is probably mechanically one of the best junglers in the league. That's without a doubt. But he's the least when macro centric.
Cannot play from behind. That guy stinks at it.
Not able to play from behind. He's the worst at low econ.
But that won't matter though. Like if Blabber stomps Santorin in the early game, it won't matter if you can play from behind. You're gonna win the game.
Blabber never did that last year.
I mean, he did actually very consistently. When they played with FlyQuest, they railed these guys.
Okay, I think you're misunderstanding the concept behind him stomping Santorin and the difference between that and Niski and him stomping the entire game.
Yeah,
kind of how they played the early.
And now we're giving Blabber perks. Who's better than Niski?
Niski, I mean, they don't play the same though. You're comparing a completely different playstyle. That's like saying that Rookie is better than Doingby, which is fair to say.
Not really. Rookie's just way better.
What's up? No, Rookie, yes. But if you have a bad jungler, which one is gonna look better on their team? He's going to look better than Doingby. It doesn't matter how much better Perks is because he doesn't play as consistently off of his junglers as Niski does. Perks is again a really good player. I'm not going to disagree with that. Like Rip Niski Vagar. I mean,
he was good at that. Oh my god,
House Blabber. I've heard nothing but good stuff about Rainover, so I'm excited for that. I'd like to see what he does as the head coach.
Like the only I have no issues with Team Liquid other than what I brought up. Like I gotta see their aggression get upped. Like they've always had this aggression problem. Is Santorin supposed to fix that? There was a series you said this guy never ganked for like a whole 20 minutes. How is that going to work out against faster paced junglers like Closer and Blabber?
They're inherently faster paced because of the fact that they have Alfari, and I guarantee
it doesn't just generate you faster paced.
It does generate you faster.
It generates you a really strong solo laner that was not going to lose.
That's not how games work. Like again, once you get a singular 1-3-1 comp, your time gate in which you can play the game is sped up. And I think with Jack, obviously for some of the team, he's going to be able to identify that. So which means that inherently they're going to play faster. I guarantee you they're probably translating 3 to 4 minutes faster than they did last year in terms of game time.
If they do that, they're going to be the best team.
No, they're not going to be the best team. That's not what makes them the best team. They're just going to be faster. They're going to be faster this year. They're probably going to be faster than Cloud9, I think, this year. I think they're probably going to be one of the fastest paced teams, but it's not about that. It's about whether or not they're actually going to be able to play as consistently. Because again, Cloud9, literally the difference between Cloud9 and them is the fact that I think Zven is substantially better than Tactical. I think that is going to be the big thing for me. I think the Zven is a very big upgrade over Tactical when he's playing well. When Zven is playing well, he's by far and away the best ADC in NA. And I think whether or not
I just got to see something out of Santorin impact this team in a way that they never had a jungler do it. Because people said the same thing for Broxa. There'd be faster pace with Broxa. That didn't work out.
It wasn't about. I mean, first of all, it's not about the jungler here. That's what I'm consistently trying to bring it.
But the jungler does have an impact on how you play the game early on. So if he's not faster early on by the game average time you're giving them, it's not going to amount to much.
Like this, for what speeds up this team is going to be Core JJ. 1-3-1 comp, because 1-3-1 comps, if you've ever seen them, are literally always faster paced than regular team fight centric comps. It's just a true fact. That's just how it works in terms of that. They're going to be like, I can almost put money on the fact that they're going to be faster than last year by like 3 to 5 minutes. Like it's not even on what, to be honest.
You're talking about Zven.
Wait, what do you mean? Zven, when he's playing well, is by far and away the best ADC. Like it's without a doubt. Like honestly, when he was playing well in his career, like for quite some time back in EU, he was the best in the West for a long time. What champions? I mean, Ezreal again.
He played Ezreal, Aphelios, Caitlyn.
Like I don't really know what else to say.
Well, to be fair, you can't quantify that because every meta changes. They can play all the champions. He's probably talking about when Zven was only playing Ezreal for Cloud9 when they were losing. I mean, that was just a bad draft decision. Like that happens a lot.
It's not a bad draft decision. That was 100% what they had to do because everybody was playing so poorly. Like without it, like you really can't say anything besides that when it comes down to a team playing insanely poorly, you can't actually do anything but play around them at that point in time. Like I think if we're looking at this right now, I mean, like Zven was literally the best Kalista in the world for quite some time. But like I don't think like he's good at literally like I don't even know an ADC that he's not good on.
He can play everything. The issue here is that they had drafting issues and they could only play through that, and Reaper made a lot of bad coaching decisions in terms of the draft.
He was undefeated on Kalista this year. Like,
he butt fucked people on Aphelios.
He's
a slow champion. If you guys haven't played Aphelios, that guy's a slow champion. Aphelios is
he's slow for level 1 and level 2. He's
honestly till about level 3. He's pretty slow. He doesn't really do a lot of damage.
He gets his abilities level 2 and then never has to like all he does is level up armor pen and stuff. Like he doesn't get other abilities. He only levels up level 2. He gets abilities.
But it's like if we're comparing Zven to other ADCs, I think FBI and Tactical and Johnson can match him. And they have good support too.
I don't think when it comes down to Zven playing well, there's not anybody. There's literally no one in the world, like in the West, for the most part, in my opinion, that can play as well as him. Like we saw him back in EU, he was dumpstering the like Reckless and stuff like that when he was still back there. Like when he's playing well, there's no one nearly as good as him, in my opinion, in the West. Maybe in the West now, but back then definitely not. And I think still in the West, probably not now still. I don't think there's too many ADCs in the West.
But even when you go off of just Cloud9 and Team Liquid, I think these teams are interchangeable between 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and Team Liquid. I mean, there's a world I could see 100 Thieves playstyle being better than Team Liquid.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I think without a doubt, the top 3 teams are by far and away better than not by far and away, but better than everybody else. I think that 4th team is better than everybody below them by quite a bit. And then I think 5th is better than everybody below, and everybody else is interchangeable. I think 6th place and below are pretty close. You could probably easily put FlyQuest on the top of that, but are weak, so that's probably true. It is completely I wouldn't say that. Reckless looks pretty good on the international stage. I mean, there's a lot of ADCs that translate moderately decently on there. We saw Forgiven look moderately okay on side of the international stage. It's hard to say anything to whether or not they are actually good, but I think that Zven looked good in terms of just back when Korea was dominating. Zven still looked good on the international.
What about the time on TSM? Were you just gonna forget that?
Yes, we're definitely going to forget that. We're literally not counting that. That's why I'm specifically talking about EU Zven. We literally don't talk about.
No, but like it's just on the. I just don't think they have a ton of question marks. The question mark is like if Fudge can work out and be good, like Cloud9 have shown us in the past when they promote a player, they'll do well. The thing with Team Liquid is, I think if they don't have early game aggression like they've been wanting for so long, they'll be the same.
I guarantee KS Team Liquid is going to be faster. That's not even a question in my mind. Like 100%, they're going to be.
Those are my problems. I mean, if Team Liquid can fix their early game, this is a really good team. Like Steve did a great job with the offseason, though. I think he did a really good job.
And has money, so he can buy whoever he wants.
The problem is, it's like I see Blabber consistently doing better in the early game than Santorin, but I see Santorin doing better later on during the game. If that makes sense.
It's like I don't want to give
those things are like those are just tomato type things. You know.
we can give credit to Steve for getting a good team. And like honestly, I don't want to give him too much credit for it because again, first of all, it's the amount of money and the players he already has on the team that are kind of generating interest. It's like giving Onslaught the
That's the quote. That's the quote we'll use for the episode. Is Zven is by far and away the best ADC.
Again, I mean, I think I guarantee, like, I do think he is when he's playing well. Is by far and away the best ADC.
No. I give credit to the org owners because like people got to factor in. Without Carlos, Perks probably would have not been as well known. Like, yes, he was
the best you're in an. I mean,
you don't know if he. Let's say he went to a dog shit organization like fucking Origin when they were collapsing. Does he do very well? We don't know these things. Though.
About it like this. First of all, we'll look at the fact that they had a good team off the bat. I'll give him credit for making the first team. Fair enough. I think that's just he grabbed Emperor and Hybrid. I mean, not Emperor and Hybrid. Emperor and
Emperor Trick and Kikis top.
No, to support. No, Kikis. No, I'm talking about the support. What's his name? I can't remember it. He grabbed them from literally from stupid Dragon Knights who looked already good. Like they already looked good when they came over, so he brought them in. They dominated the EU scene because they have a lot of good players. It's not like he took a lot of intellect to be able to bring those two in. They were able to bring in Zven and Mithy because of the fact that they looked.
It does take a lot to buy those players in.
It doesn't.
I don't know what goes on in the offseason. You have to be able to prove to these players that this roster can work. Though they had seen
that Onslaught was the one that did that. You think it wasn't the fact
that Onslaught was the one who took a gamble on Perks? Though, if he doesn't take a gamble on Perks, those players don't come over. They saw how good Perks was. That's why they joined. They're not because
really giving him credit for Perks when in reality, I think the reason that G2 looks.
I'll tell you this. Let's spin it this way. What if Perks played on not Fnatic because Fnatic has proven consistently well.
Been the best. I mean, again,
we don't know that. It's based off who they put around you. That's what goes into this.
I'll bring up
like Kobe Bryant. Let's say Kobe Bryant.
No.
A lot of the rosters
many bad teams.
A lot of the like so if you put him around a bad roster, he was
the best scoring point guard. I mean, shooting guard in the entire.
I'm talking strictly about winning a lot of stuff because let's say if Perks went to a team like I don't know.
I want to make that point that you actually just made right now. Kobe Bryant literally was on a massive amount of bad teams, but he scored 35 to 36 points per game at like 2 seasons. So he brought in a lot of good players. It wasn't the coaching staff doing that, but again, you can give him credit for that. But it was Kobe Bryant, the one that drew them in because they saw potential in this team. It's the players themselves that bring in the coaching staff. And again, it's not like Oslott's making massive amounts of big brainy moves. He's going to players and saying, "Hey, you want to join our team? I know you're good." And they're saying, "Wow, you have perks. I want to join." Like, I think some.
Well, it depends on coaching staff, the resources you actually give.
No. You're making a lot of hypotheticals, but it's
hypothetical. We know these things.
Yeah. No, what we actually know is the fact that what draws players in is good players.
Yeah,
you're not going to come to teams if they're bad.
Now, if because you know what Perk said? Perk said Origin wanted him after they won his very first split. Now, what if Ocelot just let Perks go to Origin? Origin, there's no way to really tell if Origin would actually do well after that. It's who Carlos puts around.
That's hypothetical. Whether
no, we don't, because even on Cloud9 right now, Jack knew if he put him around Zven and Mithy, he would want to come over. So those were the tiebreaker players he wanted to come over with personally.
Okay, so I don't really understand the point you're trying to make, but what I'm trying to say is the fact that first of all, it's not the coaching staff that does this because again, all they have to do is get good players. But the reason he stayed on G2 at that point in time is because they obviously, at that point in time, had a better looking team than Origin did. Origin all around, first of all, they're not going to replace, what's it called? They weren't going to replace Xpeke at that point in time. He owns the team. When they tried to bring him in is when they started faltering. It wasn't
Power of Evil, right? Yeah, Power of Evil, amazing SOAS, and yeah, it's Zven and Mithy, yeah.
Just talking about the reason they brought him in, first of all, they brought in Perks because obviously they looked like an extremely good team at that point in time, and Origin was faltering by the time they tried to ask him why would he swap.
No. Well, it's not just a player thing. It's like who you have to build. It's like the stuff you give your players to do well. So like, how would I say this? Like even just recently, the point I brought up, the reason why Perks also wanted to join is because he had Zven and Mithy. Imagine joining a team with just players you don't.
Isn't that what I'm just trying to say? I'm saying it's not because of the coaching staff. It's because the players that you got. The reason that Cloud9, the reason that Perks was.
Well, I'm not a team owner. I wouldn't know the impact these guys have.
I don't care. I'm going to base it off.
Let's just say like Perks went to let's say if Perks went to Splice. Do you think he has the same amount of impact on Europe he does on Splice? Probably not, because their organization is the same.
I mean, that's completely true, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm saying he got Dragon TDK's best bot lane at that point in time, made a really good team around that, had the MVP jungler on his team, had a decent top laner, And then he was able to replace the bot lane because not only was the bot lane on Origin unhappy with the state of their team, but G2 looks incredibly good because he picked up players that were already succeeding. He brought them in because they didn't have teams.
Well, we can backtrack a little bit. To be fair, these are risks, though.
There was a risk on these.
There's a risk on Trick. Trick didn't do that well in LCK when he was on CJ Intes, actually.
The reason they brought him is because of the fact that he actually had he was moderately decent on the scoreboard at that point.
There was a lot of people that thought he would fail. Like, a ton of people thought he would.
Everybody thought would fail.
And Hybrid were on, you said TDK. There's no way you would know they would work on G2.
That entire year, I said teams should pick up Emperor and Hybrid. They're extremely good.
I'm not saying you. I'm saying, like, Carlos is taking a bet on these players that they would do well. You're still taking a bet that they would work out, though. That's still the core of it.
It's like saying, I want to bring in Faker, but I don't know if you'd do well on my team for my Clash team.
Still taking a bet. The core concept, you're still taking a bet on him.
That's a stupid concept because the likelihood of him not succeeding on my Clash team is very low. It's like again, at this point in time, what I'm taking a bet on is whether or not I give credit to Ocelot for making this team good. And I honestly really don't. I really don't give him credit for it. I think that he's giving a lot of the benefit. In reality, the one that made G2 good was Perks, and he brought in all the players.
Because Perks bought into Carlos's vision, though. Like, there could have been any player he could leave. I mean,
you know who says this kind of stuff? It's store managers at Walmart talk like that. Our vision of what Walmart's grand.
Right, tell me this right now. Let's say he goes to any team in Europe right now. Which team he chooses? Why? Why would he choose anybody else?
Because they're a good team.
How do we know that? How do you know that? He stayed with Carlos. He stayed with Carlos because he put things around him to make him succeed, right? That's why he stayed.
You're literally giving credit. Again, first of all, the reason he would go to probably either Fnatic or G2 is because, first of all, that's a good team. He's going to go to
G2. The only team he can go to is Fnatic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He would go to Fnatic because of the fact that they look good. It's not because of what the grand scheme of the general manager of the Fnatic. He wouldn't.
What if he went to Fnatic and they put around dog shit players around him?
They already have the players. It's not about hypotheticals. They have the players already. He already had the players on G2. The reason he took a chance on G2 is because he didn't have a chance anywhere else until he proved himself. That's when he started kind of, wow, I'm going to stick with this team because they proved as a whole at the same time. They proved.
And he also stuck with his team for 4 years. So there was something. Yeah, so there was something Carlos was doing in terms of running the org to make it stay, though.
That's the craziest stretch I've ever.
So, like, let's just say this: if I worked for you and there was something you were doing that made me stay, I'm gonna stay with you for a consistently long time.
Okay, let's think about this right now.
Yes, if my team, you can go somewhere else and do better. But
think about this.
I buy into what.
I'm a good player on the NBA, on the Lakers right now, and we're winning every championship in a row. Am I gonna go to the Celtics, who haven't won in a long time because we keep beating them? For what reason?
Because you're losing?
We're winning. We're winning. We're the Lakers. We're winning every single season. Would I go to the Celtics?
You're able to retain these players because of how well your org is ran.
It's not true. They're able to do it because of how successful they've been with the players they already had.
Yeah, in terms of how the org is functioning, in terms of what you're doing to keep these players happy. Because you're looking at it from a business term. Something they're doing as a business keeps the players coming, though.
These players don't get any benefit reaping the benefits of the business aspect of it. Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Well, you get trophies. Like, that's always good.
It's winning. That's what I'm trying to say. The players are the ones that draw on what's it called? Not the coaches. It's rarely an effect of the coaches that actually bring them in. They will ask good players if they want to come and give them money. And at that point in time, it's like, will this actually amount to anything in terms of just like, are these players on this team good, or is the money they're offering me good? He lucked out again. He brought in Emperor and Hybrid, who already looks good coming into the league. He brought in Kikis, who again looked good on Unicorns of Love. He brought in, like, again, the one question mark you could say is Trick, but a lot of people had been hyping him up at that point in time. So really, like, and Perks was the best player inside of the one of the best players inside of the what's it called? So one of these things,
challenger team.
No, that's the challenge. Like, more so just the solo queue thing. So well, this point in time,
but these are still bets, though. At the end of the day, you're still taking a bet that these guys are going to work, though. Like, there's a world this all doesn't work out too. That's
it is a bet. But is Kobe Bryant going to school a college level team back 20 years ago? Would he have schooled a college level team if he went over there?
Depends on the players around him.
No, it's not. He would literally school them regardless.
But basketball is a bad comparison because that's more of a one player thing sometimes.
You can't win without a good team in basketball. What I'm saying is it's probably more important to have a good team there than it is.
The Raptors won.
What risk? The only genuine risk he took on that team was Trick. The only genuine risk he took on the rest of them had been
swapping Kikis from jungle to top.
What do you mean? He'd literally been playing top for a while inside of what's it called, and he'd practiced
for that team. He had played it for a little bit, but that's still a role swap that you don't know works on. And this was back when role swaps were decently okay to do.
This is the way it works: is inside of the challenger scene back then, you were able to take a risk because even if you don't work out, and what happens is he took a risk on an already proven player who translated into the what's it called? He wasn't planning on making it to the he was planning on making it to the LCS. He wasn't planning on winning the LCS with the amount of talent he had. He got lucky with Trick, which fair enough. He took a risk on him, but no one else really did. I don't really think he took a risk on anybody. I think everybody else was proven talents at that point in time.
He took a risk on the other rosters. Expect is a risk to a certain point.
Fair enough. I mean, Expect wasn't the big centralized point of that team, though. To be fair,
yeah.
I didn't expect to fill an already good roster with competent players.
He took a risk on Jankos to a certain extent because before Jankos
one of the best junglers already.
Before they got Jankos had never won anything. He was always a choker.
He knew he was the best jungler in the league. That's not even a question. That's not a risk. That was not a risk.
Jankos had never won anything. He was a consistent choker.
Oh, you're good.
What if Jankos goes to this team and chokes too? Because that consistently happened though.
Let's talk about this. In basketball, Charles Barkley, Perks was not a proven player. I talked about that. They talked about him when he first came into the league. There was the hype around him, but again, there wasn't too much at the very beginning of his career, which is fair enough. But I don't really think it's that much because really you're just looking for talented players inside of the EU scene and the challenger scene and picking them up.
Who was it? Wonder? I'm saying these players might look good, but they haven't won anything.
He's a player that has never won an NBA championship, but he made the Hall of Fame. And if you talked about getting power forwards, he would be in the top 5 every single time. Without ever winning a championship, everybody would talk about drafting him. Because you don't have to win things to be proven that you're actually a good player. You just have to play well, and then they could say oh, you just never had the team around you to make it work. Jankos was always a good player. Jankos was always.
You had Wonder, Mickey X.
X was
when they took a risk on Yarna and Wadid. I knew that wasn't going to work because we knew they weren't players.
Also, and it really didn't work out. But they had a pocket Heimer pick.
But see, that's the core. That's the concept I'm bringing up. It's a bet. You're always going to take a risk on these players, though.
I mean, it's not when you're talking about just filling in the gaps of an already proven team. It's not really a risk. More so as you're trying to find somebody who's not innately terrible.
And it's hard to say. I don't know. Perks wasn't a proven player to a certain point. There's no way anybody would ever know he was going to come out and dominate the way he did.
Proven. I said the fact is it's more so fair enough. He got Perks. We're talking about somebody who was already moderately decent inside the challenger scene and all that stuff, getting picked up, which is a very consistent thing that happened, and he tended to pan out. I'm saying at that point in time, the rest of the roster is given to Perks because Perks is the one that drew them in. I think that Ocelot is honestly, I never liked Ocelot. I don't like him still. That's probably why I'm so adamant about saying this because I just don't like him as a person.
I mean, something he's doing by running the organization is.
The thing that's bringing the players in is the fact that Perks was on it. And now the thing that's bringing him in is Caps, Wonder, and all the history of winning and all that stuff. And the history of winning was drawn.
Well, history of winning will definitely bring you in. But who also got Perks? It was Ocelot. You see how it kind of boils back to him?
You can say this. You can also say that good job that he fair enough. He could have literally studied Perks and all that stuff. But at the same time, I think a lot of the players were you were talking about how
anybody else saw Perks doing well in the challenger scene. Why didn't any of these other guys take Perks too? It's
everybody took chances on their players. Fair enough. You can give him credit for Perks too. Still, the fact is that Perks stayed with this team and he's the one that drew them in.
I think he stayed off a lot to a certain extent.
Not only is he not that and good of a owner, all he's done is offer big money to good players. Like I said, Perks is the reason G2 it's literally a son to him. I mean, Perks seem to be very again. I'm going to go off of the fact that I don't again. I like Perks. I don't like Ocelot though.
This season,
this thing about him talking about the fact that he was another thing, obviously for most people didn't like him as a player, but now I again when he said the thing about
a lot younger, you can't really fault that for people.
When he was talking about how he was going to let Perks go wherever he wanted. That's fair enough. You say that, but if you say that and then lie about it straight up, because he never actually let him go to Fnatic, and I wouldn't let him go to Fnatic either. But don't say we're gonna first thing and foremost we're gonna let him go wherever he wants.
I think that was more he just spoke too soon. He
was gonna let him go to Fnatic and then he lied about. Again, it's fine to not bring him to Fnatic. Fnatic is a competitor. it's smart not to do it.
And for not paying the highest dollar, then don't do it.
Yeah. The reason that he actually even said anything about like letting Perks go wherever he wants, then Fnatic comes out and says they wouldn't even let us talk to Perks. It was just a compulsive, like it's just a lie at that point in time. He didn't let him choose wherever he wanted to go, which is fine at that point in time. But he started talking about it.
That's the thing that Perks did wrong. Perks signed a contract too early, and that's the right you give away.
Reason is the fact that he completely said that we're going to let him pick wherever he wanted, and then when it came out that he didn't actually do that, he said, why would I do that? Because like it's not about the fact that he did a smart thing. It's not smart to give him to a competitor. It's about the fact that he lied to it and then tried to pretend that he never said it in the first place.
But if Perks wanted to stay in EU, he shouldn't have signed that contract early on.
I don't understand what you're trying to like. Contracts are fine. It's more so. It's not about the contract. It's about him lying about actually saying what he said, which is fair.
Perks should have bet on himself to the point where, like, if he didn't sign the contract, he could have got the choice to go to any team.
Like, Perks said he didn't want to join Fnatic, but he could be. It's not about that. It's about the fact that, what's his name? It's when he came out and said the fact that he was going to let him go wherever he wanted, and he went out of his way. Like, then he said, I let him talk to whoever he wanted and let him pick wherever he wanted to go. And then it came out that he never actually let Fnatic talk to him.
But why is it's just Fnatic though? Like, I mean,
it's more so that it's the big thing is that's what everybody's actually mad about. No one cares the fact that he didn't let him go to Fnatic.
I'll say this: everything he said outside of that made clear, perfect sense. You don't want to you wouldn't give LeBron James to the Celtics. That'd be stupid. You know,
it's more about the fact that what everything else he said made sense because everything made sense before he said it. It's about the fact that the one thing that actually everybody's angry about, he never addressed. He never addressed it.
That's only mattering to Fnatic fans. That only really matters.
It's mattering to the fact that he lied to everybody. And that's what actually upsets me.
Listen, though, I can't tell what goes on in an offseason to make him.
He said it's not about offseason. He said these words. He said it out loud, and then completely, when it came out that he lied about it, completely avoided the question. Like it's just what happened, and you can't even refute that. That's literally what went on. It's a proven fact now, and he avoided it, and that's really what bothered everybody. And now at this point in time, when he went on the Thor, like the what's it called, the whatever show he went on and started talking about it, he never singular addressed the thing that everybody was upset about. Everybody was upset about one specific thing, avoided it, and just tried to pretend it was never said. And the Fnatic, and no one cared about that.
I mean, to be fair, these things happen. These things happen. Like,
also lying does happen. It doesn't mean I like them for doing it. Like, if you're gonna lie straight to everybody's face, you can lie, and there's no contract holding you to it. People are allowed to call you a trash can, though. It's just fair. It's fair both ways.
You could be a trash can and still win consistently, and people are gonna forget about this anyway. Like people have to say, if you're consistently winning, people are just gonna forget about it at all.
I mean, he's still not a bad person. Like he's still a bad person for doing. Like it annoyed me.
A lot of people, we're all bad. You lie too. We can't just condemn someone for lying.
You really try. You're going out of your way to defend him. Why?
I'm not like you lie. I lie to a certain extent.
To a certain extent, is he wrong? Is he in the wrong for this one?
Look at it this way.
Look at just yes or no. Like, do you think he's in the wrong for this one?
For lying that he like, I don't even care why
he said he did, but didn't actually do. Do you think he's in the wrong for that one?
But there's a hindsight that goes into this. Like people got to factor this in. If that whole team signed a contract early on that gave away the right for you to do that, though. That is
understanding. No one's questioning that. No, not a single person has questioned. You're still avoiding the question of, is it okay for him to lie about something he said he did but didn't actually do? It's not about signing away. You're allowed to sign away your rights.
Let's be honest. A lot of these guys lie to us. The only reason why it's more put on him because he's open with it.
No, he's not open with it. He tried to hide it, and when it came out he was lying, he refuted. I mean, he
we don't know really what happened though. We don't even know from Perks's point of view about what's going on.
He said it in a tweet, like he said it in a tweet, and then it's not actually. It came out. It wasn't what I actually did. I don't know. Like there's not really any. There's no workaround or anything. It literally he's lied. That's all there is. Like,
I mean, I'm not going to condemn someone just for lying.
I'm just going to say I don't like him. I didn't like him as a player. I don't like him now.
We were around when he was a player.
What's up? I mean, it doesn't matter if we like 100%. The stories are still here. I wasn't 100% watching the scene. 100. Fair enough.
Like stories. There's stories about us too that are clearly lies or maybe over exaggerated. You know,
these are all proven facts. I don't understand. Now, everything you're saying, all of these things came out. He was a very well-known, annoying person back in the scene, and now you're trying to say these things are not true, which were proven facts before.
I'm saying you have to give context for these things. Like a well-known person when he's younger, aren't we all annoying people when we're younger?
All of these things add up, and the fact is that he's did it now means that he hasn't changed too drastically now. Like,
I mean, that's how some people are. Some people just never really change who they are. I mean,
I'm not trying to say he's not winning and all that stuff. I'm just saying he's still the same. And that's just without a doubt. He can win all he wants, and he can have a successful life and all that stuff. That doesn't change a mindset that I have for somebody. I don't hate Ocelot. It just annoys me. That was obnoxious.
No, I see your point. I just for me, I can't really like, because there's a lot of stories about players who were younger and they did things, you know.
Like, what are you trying to say that?
I think it's only blown out of proportion because it's Fnatic. And this is my point of view. It's only blown out of proportion because it's Fnatic. If this was a dog shit team like Excel, this wouldn't really be blown out of proportion. Let's be honest here. I'm just calling out a double standard. I'm just calling out a double standard. If this was any other team in EU besides Fnatic, it wouldn't matter as much.
If it was a good, if like Splice was a good team, and he's like they can't go to Splice and he can go to Fnatic instead. If the what's it called were flipped, then they would have cared because it's literally just him. Like at that point in time, because he's not gonna not say yes to Splice asking right now because they're trash. He wouldn't care. It's about competition for him. Mm-hmm. Like all these things that he said he's doing it for his favor and all that stuff. It came down to him.
Because you have to prove to your investors and people buying into your company that you can win, so you can get more people buying into the company.
You can win. That's crazy.
Hey, he's already a millionaire. He's did other things outside of League to make himself a millionaire.
This Cloud9 contract too, but
$11 million of perks. Like $11 million of perks. That is overpaid.
It's not overpaid. There's no salary cap. There's no overpaying.
Purse is worth about like $5 million. I'm just being like that. Hey, come on.
There's no context because it doesn't matter how much you pay for a character. It's about how much you can rake in for him. There's literally no worth for these characters.
And like, let's be honest here. If he was really that bad of a guy, he got mega paid and he got perks mega paid too. Let's be honest here. And perks gets to be a millionaire. And also perks gets to play with Zven and Mythic players.
He's literally on the same contract. He just sold him the contract. He doesn't get any extra.
I don't know which works. I'm just going off of what they said.
No, literally all of the money. If you sell a contract, the money that you sell the contract for doesn't
you have to buy out Perks' salary too. Whatever he's already getting paid, you have to pay for that too. That's what they said.
No, he's still under the same contract, is he not?
I don't.
If he's under the same contract, nothing.
You have to pay for the contract. This is what they said. You have to pay for the contract, and you also have to pay Perks' salary.
Contract.
But to be fair, like even if you're factoring in the future, that's still a lot of money you're paying anyway. So literally, Perks
to a new one. It's fair enough. If they did that, that's what they did.
But Perks is set for life anyway. Even if that is true, he's still set for life. And Perks gets to play with Zven and Mithy again. Players he's like to play with again.
You can negotiate a new contract. Okay, so what happens is when somebody buys a contract from an enemy, like a different team, and they literally usually for the most part bring that contract over to the team they're actually on right now, and they continue that contract. They're under the same contract they were under before, but the money that they bought the contract out for goes to the other team. That's it. Nothing goes to that player. They're still under the same contract. They're still getting paid the same. It's just money transferred to the teams. Like
the thing that Thorin said was that when they did the buyout, he negotiated to get a lot of money for Perks and himself. So he got Perks paid and Ocelot paid too.
Perks paid. I don't hate Ocelot. I'm sure he doesn't hate him either.
I factor this in. You said it yourself. Would you rather take millions and play in Cloud9 or take less millions and play in Fnatic?
Understand again, he probably would have chosen Cloud9. It's more about the fact that he didn't give him the chance to talk on him.
And then again, also Ocelot, like Jack built a team where Perks is now able to play with Zven and be with around Mithy too. Players he said he's liked being around.
None of these things factor into the fact that he lied, and that's really all I'm arguing about.
All of us lie, dude. All of us lie. I mean,
it doesn't mean that he's not a terrible person for lying to everybody's face right there. You can still say all that stuff. Lying about something that's important like that is a big deal. Lie about small things.
I think it's only important because it's Fnatic, though. That's the only problem.
It's important because he just straight up completely lied about the fact. Like, again, there was obviously tensions between Perks, between his tweets of, you know what, I'm not going to bring, I'm not going to bring any of this stuff up. It's something that should be talked about behind the scenes. Something along those lines that he said obviously showed there was tension between the two. It doesn't seem like he was happy with him.
He said they had talked to each other and he knew everything that was going on. The issue here is they were trying to build a super team, and Perks most likely wanted to be on that super team in Europe, and they didn't obviously get through that because Alphari chose to join Team Liquid because Vitality was going to get Alphari, Trick, good mid laner. I forgot who the mid laner was going to be. Hillisang and Nemesis. So, it just depends on how these things go. I mean, there was going to be tension because he even said they were never going to get rid of Caps. I even told people, why would you ever get rid of Caps? He's better than Perks at mid lane anyway. It would be a dumb decision, but it's not a wrong decision either because Perks is also not a bad mid laner either. So, just those tomatoes. I don't know how we got on that. This guy just brought up Ocelot. I was like, what? Oh.
Me? I don't remember how it happened, to be honest. I just hate Ocelot, so it kind of pops in every once in a while.
I was just like, okay. I mean, like, yeah.
Honestly, I hate Ocelot and G2's Twitter page. Those are the two people I hate the most.
Oh my god, it's just fun. You are just anti-fun.
It's like some of the most generic jokes ever.
I should get a hose and put it on your back and suck all the life of fun out of you.
Because you laugh at jokes that little like teenage
okay, so what do you want their account to be? Just boring PC stuff?
Boring. It's just like,
what do you want? What would you want? Boring PC stuff?
Jokes that they make just so you can see.
Oh, Cloud9 do it too. TSM do it. All of them do it.
All of them are bad. Like, just look, I'll actually bring up the Wendy's Twitter page is hilarious to me. They're funny.
Wendy's, the fast food restaurant.
Like one of the funniest people on Twitter.
I mean, humor is subjective. Humor is super subjective. I mean,
most of the stuff you can identify whether or not it's immature. I'm not going to say anything. That's really not the argument we're making, though. I was more so arguing because I always bring up Perks. I'm going to Ocelot and everything.
No, it's just that, I mean, if he got Perks paid, that's good. And now Perks gets to play on a top NA team with his friends Zven and Mithy. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. It's all about how you see it in general. Like, I'm never gonna know what exactly goes on in an off season. I'm not gonna pretend that I do know. I can only just.
I mean, all of this stuff is out in the open, so it's not really a questionable thing. Is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to say anything. I don't think Ocelot's the most evil person on the planet. I would
go to T1 management because they're pieces of crap.
Everybody's like, honestly, management for the most part is usually evil. I'm not trying to say that. I was just like, first of all, I didn't want to give Ocelot credit for G2, where I think Perks is literally the 90% of the reason why they succeeded.
And you said for TSM too, 90% of it was Bjergsen at a certain point.
It's
and Reckless, same thing for Fnatic, Sneaky for Cloud9, Faker for T1.
It's mostly because of the fact that you always bring up the fact that Ocelot is one of the greatest owners of all time, and I hate it.
Well, you have to do certain things to be in his position. You can't just be doing like crappy to be in that position.
He offered money to Wonder, who is one of the best top laners in the world, and Wonder came over because Perks and the money. Like, it's every team is going to offer these teams players money. It's just whether or not the fact if you have the players to back it up or not.
Some actually do take less money to play with a good player. It's proven.
That's what it is. And that's just what they did on, like, there's no salary cap, so you can literally just stack teams, which is idiotic to me.
Eventually there'll be a salary cap. Eventually there will be.
There has to be a salary. Like, honestly,
there should have one. That's what's weird. The LPL of all places has one first. That's weird.
Because they have too much money, so they literally have 70 bad teams and then 2 good teams. Like, LPL had to put one, or they would just have too many bad teams at the bottom, which is something that
they do.
I think that EU and NA should have that. I think every single region eventually should. Just NA doesn't have the player base to be able. They just don't have enough good players for it to matter.
But overall, that's pretty much it. Are you free tomorrow?
Am I free tomorrow? Yeah. What do you need? I'm taking somebody to the. I'm taking Alyssa out of town to go get her doctor's appointment, but that's pretty much it for me on that. I should be fine.
What were we gonna do? I was trying to get this thing fixed back there.
Do you want me to fix your chair?
Yeah, but
okay.
I gotta go to the store tomorrow. That's pretty much it. Okay. I'll text you like around like 6 or some shit.
Let's go for it. 6
or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I thought we had a great episode right here. I mean, obviously, it's always fun to talk League, and I hope the LCS is better. I don't buy into stupid narratives like, oh yeah, we'll do better because we have this. No, I gotta be proven that. I'm sorry.
Was that FlyQuest? I mean, stupid 100 Thieves again.
No. It's just a lot of people are saying, well, NA will be a lot more competitive. Let's see it first and then judge it. There's nothing in NA's. There's nothing by what the region has ever done to show us that it'll be good. Like, we need to. I want to be proven this. It's just like the same thing with Fnatic and G2. Nothing. Any other team has showed us that Fnatic and G2 always win. I want to be able to see it, then I can buy into it. Until I see it, I can't buy into it.
I'm gonna base it off of what I see on teams rosters. I think NA looks a lot more.
Still hypotheticals though. At the end of the day, some like in Europe, it's only been G2 and Fnatic winning.
Like, there's just always a stupid way to look at it. Basing past precedences on whether or not NA can succeed. when they obviously have
They
different.
obviously haven't before, so we're gonna just based off of just what?
They have
Nothing.
a whole different region around them. They have a lot of decent coaches now.
It was also said years ago too. The exact same thing.
They didn't have good coaches.
Every year they say this.
They didn't have good coaches before. I think right now they're actually succeeding in terms of NA with the moderately decent coaches. I think Jat is decent, and that's probably and maybe what's
an arrow.
No, Rainover. I hate an arrow.
We have no clue about Rainover's head coaching style yet.
That's fair enough. A lot of people have said a lot of successes came from him. So
Or Reaper was good. I just think Reaper was good. He just choked in big moments.
How is that choking?
Just certain player decisions and certain drafting was pretty bad. It's certain situations.
I don't know. I think a lot of people over exaggerate. Like the Ezreal pick had to be picked because the rest of the team was trash. He started underperforming and they had no choice.
Who else? Like Bjergsen, I think a lot of people are giving too much hype to Bjergsen as a coach. I mean, this person literally just went 0-6. So
I haven't said anything about Bjergsen as a coach. I'll wait to see.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna say anything good or bad, but like I don't get the hype around him just yet because he's people gotta factor this in. Just because he is a player turned coach doesn't automatically mean he'll be good. Like being a coach is like being a role model in terms of other things that's not being a player. Like it happened in the NBA too. Like certain players became coaches and not good coaches though. Just happens.
Fair enough.
I think people are giving a little bit too much precedent toward someone that they just.
Everybody hired Bjergsen as a coach. They said it could work out.
And you know what? TSM has had the same play styles for years with new coaches every single time because Reginald's a moron.
It's not the same.
I mean, I don't know. Same thing's been said too about they have a new team. Now it's going to be different.
Yes, because they have the same main pieces. That's not the same because they kept the same players, so they didn't really have a new team.
Came here to say Perks is going to smurf on these kids. Right? I was actually watching his Twitch stream actually. He looks pretty solid. He looks pretty solid, but it's obviously like solo queue, so you can only take so much out of that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. See you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe, most of all, enjoy. One second. The lock-in tournament starts. LCS lock-in tournament. Because I want to watch that, even though it's not, you can't amount much to it. It's
I
still
don't care about
It starts the 15th, so in about a week or so.
I don't care about
It'll give me a general consensus on where these teams could potentially be.
I don't care. I don't like honestly. Most of these players don't come in with the mindset, so it's not fun to watch.
I don't know. I think there's stuff on the line to prove. Perks definitely is not just gonna walk up on the stage and just straight up lose.
We'll see.
Like, could you really see a player like Core JJ's going to be like, okay, guys, let's just go 0-10?
No, it's not like they don't try. It's that they don't try new stuff and they just kind of play around for fun. And if they lose, they're not.
I just want to see this for a general gauge of what they're at least trying to do. Like, I don't really care who wins. For all we know, Dignitas could be the best team out of this thing. For all we know, like players like Dardock and Alpha Moon want to prove something. Like CLG has something to prove at this tournament and show people that they're not like all trash veterans to a certain extent. But you never really know. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe, most of all, enjoy. Make sure you guys like the stream after you see it up, and that's pretty much it. More off-season content. I have videos for other teams I have to do still, like FlyQuest, CLG, EG, Fnatic, and G2. Those are the only other teams I got to finish, and that's pretty much it. I did a channel update video today about the plans I have for 2021 regarding the channel because the channel grew a lot, and I'm really proud of myself. But I want to try and get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It's pretty tough, but I think that's a goal I'll reach. I'll settle for like 850. That's where I'll settle. But the goal is 1,000 people. I think I really could have got it this year, but I talked to another guy who does this too. He told me I was doing really well, but I was missing on some key things, which I'm going to apply to this year's offseason when it comes up. Because the biggest boost to the channel has always been offseason, but I've been doing them kind of wrong. And he showed me, hey, if you do them this way, you're going to be a lot more bigger. And I'm like, okay, I can see what I did wrong. And I'll try doing that stuff when the 2021 offseason comes up. But to be fair, even when we have the newest offseason come up at the end of the year after Worlds, I don't think anything can top this year's freaking last year's offseason. That was just crazy. I mean, like, we had literal legacy players retiring, legacy players going to different ores. I just don't see it happening for this year's coming offseason where it's going to be the same.
That pretty much it?
Yeah? You want a hug?
No.
All right. That's how you end it. Zven is by far the best ADC. It's going to be the title of it. Oh my God, it's gonna make. I wish if I was bigger, that would have made so many headlines. Oh my God!
I think the big problem is that people are gonna get angry at me for yelling at Ocelot at the end.
I mean, I held my own down pretty well, so I thought I destroyed all your points. I'm just kidding.
You didn't have just this game I hated.
You're like, you know what? You were young and dumb, so I'm gonna condemn you for it.
It was the reason. That's not young.
I'm just kidding. All right, guys. See you later. Peace.